Good afternoon. The meeting will now come to order. Hello, I am Marcia Herbert, President of the Board of Education, and I would like to welcome you to the November 13th, 2024 board meeting, and I have the same outfit I had on 8 years ago at my first board meeting, and I still fit in it, so there you go. I just thought I'd add a little to that tonight. In keeping with the board's commitment to open communication with the community, this meeting is being streamed live on the CCPS website at www.carrollk12.org and broadcast live on Channel 21. We are also recording this meeting so that it can be accessed on demand on our website and broadcast throughout the month on Channel 21. Public participation will be held at approximately 5:15. Speakers will be directed into the boardroom from the building lobby and are allotted 3 minutes to address the board. As a reminder, please silence all cell phones and other devices. Board members, please turn off your microphones when you're not speaking. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, I need a motion for the approval of the agenda.
So moved.
By Dr. Dorsey, seconded by Ms. Battaglia. Comments, questions, corrections? I will call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. At this time, I'd like the approval of, need a motion for the approval of the minutes
So moved.
for October 10th. It was motioned by Ms. Battaglia and seconded by,
I'll second.
thank you, by Ms. Savigny. Comments, questions, corrections?
No.
I call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. And now we're going to go down below.
Okay. Today, we honor and say farewell to 2 board members who have dedicated the past 8 years to our school system. Board members, please join me down front by the podium. All right, I can read it from here. Yeah. I would like to begin by reading a proclamation in recognition of Board President Marcia Herbert. Whereas Marcia B. Herbert was elected in 2016 by the citizens of Carroll County to serve a 4-year term on the Board of Education and was reelected to a second term in 2020. And whereas, while a member of the Board of Education, Ms. Herbert was elected by her colleagues to serve 2 terms as vice president and 3 terms as president. And whereas, during her tenure on the board, Ms. Herbert was a strong advocate for local control and decision-making, which resulted in Carroll County Public Schools consistently ranking as one of the top-performing school systems in the state of Maryland. And whereas Ms. Herbert always put the best interests of students and staff at the forefront of the board's decision-making process and promoted fiscal responsibility, resulting in competitive compensation for all employees. And whereas Ms. Herbert strongly believed in open communication with parents and the community and emphasized the importance of the school system remaining politically neutral while establishing and maintaining a productive working relationship with the Board of Commissioners of Carroll County and members of the Carroll County delegation to Annapolis. And whereas, as a board member, Ms. Herbert provided exceptional leadership during COVID, resulting in Carroll County Public Schools being the first to implement virtual instruction when schools were closed, the first to reopen schools for in-person learning, the first to remove masks, and the first to compete in sports in alignment with the board's commitment to students as its top priority. And whereas, while on the board, Ms. Herbert was involved in decisions that will affect the school system for years to come, including the appointment of Dr. Cynthia McCabe as Superintendent of Schools, the improvements and modernization of the Carroll County Career and Technology Center, and the East Middle School Replacement Project, and an implementation plan for the blueprint for Maryland's future. And whereas Ms. Herbert made personal involvement in the school system a top priority and took the time to visit schools, interact with students and staff, attend programs and athletic events, and was always available to assist parents and community members with problems and concerns. Be it therefore resolved that the members of the Board of Education of Carroll County do hereby offer Marcia B. Herbert a sincere thanks for being an outstanding leader and giving her time to serve as a member of the Board of Education of Carroll County. We do hereby recognize the service and dedication she has rendered to the children and citizens of Carroll County. We wish for her good health, much happiness, and continued success. Be it further resolved that this proclamation be inscribed upon the minutes of the Board of Education of Carroll County on the 13th day of November in the year 2024.
Yeah, I'm going to say my words
Okay.
so I can sit down.
Okay, then I'll take that.
All right, I got to get my act together now.
You go. Now, as the president of the Board of Education, Ms. Herbert will present a proclamation in recognition of Ms. Savigny.
I'm still leading, you're directing, okay. We've been together for 8 years, and we stuck together, I will tell you that, through thick and thin. Whereas Donna M. Savigny was elected in 2016 by the citizens of Carroll County to serve a 4-year term on the Board of Education and was reelected to a second term in 2020. And whereas, while a member of the Board of Education, Ms. Savigny was elected by her colleagues to serve 1 term as vice president and 2 terms as president. And whereas, during her tenure on the board, Ms. Savigny always focused on local control and decision-making, leading directly to students' consistency, performing amongst the best in the state of Maryland. Whereas, during her 8 years as a member of the Board of Education, Ms. Savigny firmly believed in fiscal responsibility, which led to significant increases in compensation for all Carroll County Public School employees. And whereas Ms. Savigny was actively involved in the development and commitment of a strategic plan that helped keep Carroll County Public Schools focused on high academic achievement. And whereas during her tenure, Ms. Savigny played a significant role in the appointment of Dr. Cynthia McCabe as Superintendent of Schools and an implementation plan for the blueprint for Maryland's future, decisions that will impact the school systems for many years to come. Whereas, as a board member, Ms. Savigny collaborated with staff and the Board of Commissioners of Carroll County to develop a capital fund scoring concept, which directly led to completion of the new and expanded Career and Technology Center and the new East Middle School. And whereas Ms. Savigny provided unwavering leadership during COVID, that was tough, and was a strong advocate for following the data, resulting in Carroll County being the first to reopen schools for in-person learning and the first to remove masks and compete in sports, demonstrating the board's commitment to students as its top priority. And whereas, as a board member, Ms. Savigny was instrumental in the development of policies that created a welcoming environment for all students by keeping the school system politically neutral, was a champion for parental choice, and a strong advocate for all students and staff, always acting in the best interest of the school system. Be it therefore resolved that the members of the Board of Education of Carroll County do hereby offer Donna M. Savigny a sincere thank you for being an outstanding leader and giving her time to serve as a member of the Board of Education of Carroll County. We do hereby recognize the service and dedication she has rendered to the children and citizens of Carroll County. We wish for her good health, much happiness, and continued success. Be it further resolved that the proclamation be inscribed upon the minutes of the Board of Education of Carroll County on the 13th day of November in the year 2024. There you go, Ms. Savigny.
Ms. Savigny, would you like to make a few comments?
I'll,
Up to you.
I'll just say very quickly, I'm a little overwhelmed. I didn't expect folks to be here tonight and just appreciate you all being here. I do have a whole farewell speech. I know it's shocking to everyone, that I was just going to read during our correspondence in a few minutes, just so that everybody doesn't have to stand for that. But
Right.
I want to thank Marcia for reading this. I'm not sure I would have been able to return the favor. It's kind of an emotional night. It's bittersweet. It's been 8 years. It was a long time, and it also went by in the blink of an eye at the same time. I don't know how to explain it, but it was both at the same time. It's bittersweet to walk away, but I feel good about what we've been able to accomplish over the
accomplished
last
a lot.
8 years. So thank you all for being here, and stay tuned if you want to hear my farewell speech.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll say that later. All right, let's get the show on. Got a meeting to run.
Oh, no, don't go back yet. No, not yet.
Okay.
Congratulations, Ms. Herbert and Ms. Savigny. In addition to your proclamations, we also have flowers and a small keepsake in appreciation for your many years of service to the school system. I would personally like to thank you for being members of the Board of Education. You have led us through good times and bad times, and we have faced many challenges together. It is very evident that you truly care about Carroll County Public Schools, and we wish you all the best in the future. Board members, at this time, would you like to make a few comments? We have a microphone that we can pass along if anyone would like to make a comment.
I would like to say something. Marcia, Donna, two remarkable women that serve as unbelievable role models for our girls and women here in Carroll County. Your leadership, your mentorship has meant a lot to me. And I only wish people knew just how hard you work behind the scenes for them. Every teacher, every student, every maintenance worker, every IA, every nurse, every single person involved in our school system, every bus driver. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for your service, and thank you for being a phenomenal role model for me. And I only hope I can give a fraction of what you gave as a board member.
Donna, Marcia, thank you so very, very much for serving as members of our Board of Education. I know we've had some trying times, but we've certainly also had some good times. And one thing I know, when we are involved in writing scripts or writing messages, we can always, sort of edit and revise as we go along. Well, when we go through life, there are things that happen that, we can't really edit or revise, but yet we can remember the good times. And those are the times that I remember. I certainly know that it has taken a lot of sacrifice of your own time to really be committed to what you've been able to do. So again, I've enjoyed working with both of you. And again, I think there are times when we say, we don't always see eye to eye on everything. But boy, we've had some discussions where even though we don't see eye to eye, we've learned to appreciate each other's understanding and perspectives. And I think that only helps to make us all strong. So again, thank you for all you've done and for all you will continue to do. But again, I do know that our children here in Carroll County are, better because of how you have served us so well in your last 8 years of service to the board. So thank you very much. I appreciate you both very much.
All right, I'll just read what I have then. Is that yours?
Wrong script.
Everything is all together.
I always told her to write stuff down. I
do.
can't believe she finally did it the last meeting.
I always do. It's always on my email though when I send it to Andy. Many times we say we are thankful for when November comes around, and I want to take this opportunity to say how thankful I am for the opportunity to serve along the side of two incredible women these past 6 years. We have been through some interesting times, to say the least, and I wouldn't have wanted it any other way. These two amazing ladies I have had the pleasure of meeting and seeing fight in their souls during the closure of schools that happened in 2015 and the continue of the fight to keep them open. They continue to have that fire to run two extremely successful campaigns where they served for 8 years. Through their sacrifice, their sweat, their tears, and some very long meetings sometimes, they made CCPS a successful school system to open back up, get our students back to learning, and supporting the superintendent to implement Blueprint. Thank you so much, Marcia and Donna, for your service for our community, our families, our staff, our students, and for your guidance. Thank you.
So thank you, Ms. Herbert. Thank you, Ms. Savigny. I haven't been here on the board for very long, but I've grown so much already, I believe, with all your leadership. By hearing all of your questions on every single packet that we go through, makes me really realize just how deep you can go into all of these things that we do for our county. And both of you served the very first term, I believe, when I moved here to Carroll County. So I was here for all the transitions. And my mother and my family really loves it here, as opposed to where we used to live. And they really do believe it's part of our board. And everything that you guys were able to accomplish with COVID happening, which was handled very well when I have friends across America and like Maryland, and seeing how the differences are really truly are in our Board of Education and how hard you guys worked. And I will always carry what you guys have taught me. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, again, and congratulations to Ms. Herbert and Ms. Savigny. And before we go back up to the dais, we'd like to get a photo.
All right. Now we will hear from the Carroll County Student Government Report.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for your time. My name is Mason Dean. I am a junior at Winters Mill High School, and I am your Carroll County Student Government Association Vice President. This past month, CCSGA held its first General Assembly at Winters Mill High School. Over 150 middle and high school students from around the county attended and heard from guest speakers Ms. Cynthia McCobb and Mackenzie Greenwood, a senior at Manchester Valley High School. In addition, we hosted a Board of Education candidate forum to include student voice in the election process. In this upcoming month, we will be planning for our Winter General Assembly at Francis Scott Key High School. Students will participate in service learning projects and create blankets for children at pediatric hospitals through Project Linus. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Dean.
Thank you. And now we will move on to public comments. Ms. Battaglia.
Cindy, I think you have it in your binder.
I could say 3 minutes, yada, yada, behave yourselves, yada, yada.
There we
Thank
go.
you.
We're in business.
To have an orally presentation or comments by the public, the following guidelines apply. Speakers with a connection to CCPS will be allowed to address the board for the allotted 3 minutes. Only these speakers that have registered online and have been notified by the Communications Department will be permitted to speak. Priority will be given to the citizens that are addressing the board about an item on the current agenda. Citizens not appearing in person for public comment can write to the board through email or U.S. mail. Public participation is not intended to be a question or answer session. However, if citizens have specific questions, the superintendent will assign a staff member to make contact during the board meeting to arrange a time to respond to questions. The superintendent and the board reserve the right to correct misinformation presented as factual after the conclusion of the public participation period. Statements to the board shall relate to a recent agenda item, an agenda item that is expected to appear in the future, or a matter of general policy over which the board has authority. Personnel matters, pending appeals, the actions or statements of individual staff, or items related to employee negotiations are not appropriate topics and may not be discussed. The board has scheduled time on the agenda for public participation at approximately 5:15. The board reserves the right to limit the number of speakers on a particular topic so that all topics may be addressed. Additionally, the board retains the discretion to allow additional speakers as it deems appropriate. The board is allowed no more than an hour for public participation. Comments are limited to 3 minutes or less. All comments should be directed to the board members at the dais. Citizens may only address the board with their individual comments. Citizens may not stand in for another person or a group or read their comments. When the allotted time expires, the speaker is permitted to complete a sentence. Citizens may leave any handouts for the board members on the table in the back of the boardroom. Please do not approach the dais. Additionally, the public may not display signs or posters during the board meeting. In lieu of signs, or if you're unable to complete your comments in the allotted time, individuals are encouraged to submit the remarks to the board in writing. Those seated in the audience are asked to be respectful of the speaker and refrain from commenting to the speaker or the board members. Here, I try to make up time by reading
I
fast.
feel like you read that at like 2 times speed.
She got the memo.
Whew, yeah, I did. Our first speaker would be Jay Savigny. And keep it fast because Miss Herbert here is on the time crunch.
Hi, good afternoon. I would like to introduce myself. My name is Jay Savigny, and this is my son, Evan. My daughter, Grace, would be here, but she's a freshman at Virginia Tech studying engineering. And I am married to that beautiful woman right there. Hi, sweetie. I often refer to myself as Mr. Donna, so some of you may be surprised to learn my actual name. I'm here to say a few words thanking our outgoing board members, Marcia Herbert and Donna Savigny. So let's just get straight to it. Marcia and Donna, you guys are rock stars. I'm getting emotional because this has been a hard time for our family over the years, so Marcia and Donna deserve a lot of credit. And despite what Mark Cuban says about some women, You two are neither weak nor dumb. In fact, you are two of the strongest, smartest, and courageous women I have ever met. Your strength and conviction always came through when our community needed it most. You were absolutely the two right people in the right place at the right time to lead an organization through some very challenging times. Bottom line, you got things done, and we are all better for it. I'm not going to talk about all the successes, and there were many, but without question, you are leaving CCPS in a much better place than when you were first elected 8 years ago, and the future is very bright. So in 8 years, I have never been to a board meeting. So I figured this will be my first and last time at the podium, and I can't think of a better reason to be here than to celebrate you two women. Donna and Marcia, I want to extend my gratitude for all that you've done, for all that you've sacrificed, and for all the bullets you've taken on our behalf. I know it wasn't easy, but like I said earlier, you are both rock stars, and we thank you. You both served with class, dignity, and to quote Ernest Hemingway, you served with grace under pressure. Job well done, ladies. Thank you.
So I just want to reiterate what he said. You guys have killed it these past 8 years, and I couldn't have asked for two better people to run our school system. You guys have been mentors for me as I've gone through my years of high school, and we can really feel your presence in the classrooms. You do so much for us. And I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. I love you, Mom.
Our next speaker is Brian Thompson.
Good evening, Board. My name's Brian Thompson. No, I'm not Teacher of the Year. But I am a proud father of 4 children in Carroll County Public Schools. I'd like to take a moment to express my sincere gratitude to Donna Savigny and Marcia Herbert for all their years of dedicated service to the Board of Education, and most importantly, to our children and all students in Carroll County. As many of you know, the past 8 years have been anything but ordinary. The pandemic in particular was a defining moment for our community. I'll never forget the packed boardrooms, full of parents, myself included, pleading for our schools to be reopened, for our kids to be unmasked, and for our children to receive the education they so desperately needed. Though it's easy to want to move on from those difficult years, I think it's crucial to acknowledge that it was during that time that both Donna and Marcia truly rose to the occasion. They stood firm under tremendous pressure, consistently advocating for what was best for our kids, our families, and our community. Donna, I want to thank you for inspiring me and many others to take action, to not just be bystanders, but to take ownership for our public education system. Your leadership showed us all what it means to be steadfast, courageous, and effective. Marcia, your commitment to public education, not only as a board member, but as decades as a teacher, has been invaluable. You've balanced the needs of all stakeholders, students, parents, and educators, with grace and wisdom. Your leadership has left a lasting impact on Carroll County. You both have shaped our school system in ways that will benefit generations to come. We will miss you, but your legacy will live on. Thank you both for everything you've done for our community.
Our next speaker is Ann Carpenetti. Carpenetti.
She's not here.
Okay. Next speaker is Diana Bergman. If I mispronounce it, please correct me.
Greetings, board members and Superintendent Dr. McKay. Good evening. My name is Diana Bergman, and I'm here to roll up my sleeves and get to work. So, tonight I'm speaking as a community stakeholder and a parent of students in Carroll County Public Schools. My request today is for the current board members and the incoming board members, with the collaboration of the superintendent and the school district, to review the current operating budget as well as take into consideration the upcoming operating budget, to identify how much of the budget is allocated to support administrators of schools and department chairs of special education and other departments when facilitating meetings. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because firsthand, I've seen some meetings where there's been some challenges. Some challenges where as team members, and I mean by team members, parents, teachers, students, leadership in our school, leadership in our central office, we have a hard time facilitating a meeting when discussing students' education. And I want to see improvement. One of the things I noticed that Carroll County doesn't have is like a feedback service. So this is a suggestion I'm providing. How do we know as team members that we're doing a good job? How do we know where we need to improve? How do we know that we are a better version of ourselves in the future today than what we were yesterday? That only happens if we all give each other the respect to hear each other out, even when times come that we might disagree. And the reason why is there's going to be disagreements. But where there's disagreements, there's also solutions. There's that compromise. That's that way how we collaborate through things to do things in the best interest of the students so they could achieve their academic success. Because that's why we're all here. Parents sent their absolute best to schools, just as teachers want to do their absolute best to teach our students. So there's nothing wrong with improving how we move forward together. Because TEAM stands for Together Everyone Achieves More. And how do we do that if we don't ask those tough questions? We ask ourselves genuinely and authentically, like, hey, what could I have done better? So I want to make sure that we're heard. Every single team member participating. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kristen Zimmer.
Good evening. I'm tempted this evening to use this forum to thank Marcia and Donna for their mentorship, as I saw it in one of the opening board seats vacated by their looming departures in this recent election. But I'm actually here tonight to honor and thank them for their many years of dedicated service to my children, my family, and all of Carroll County as exemplary members of the Carroll County Board of Education. I could point to hundreds of specific things, but in my limited time here this evening, I really want to focus on my gratitude on their bold yet wise leadership during the strange and tumultuous COVID period. And I know this has already been brought up multiple times, but it's so important to me as my oldest was in preschool during 2020. Under their determined leadership, Carroll County Public Schools paved the way to reopen our classrooms, to get our kids out of the masks, which stunted their growth educationally, psychologically, and socially, and getting our schools and our students back to intramural scholastic sports, which are such an integral part of the K-12 school experience for so many students. As everyone will recall, their determination to bring back much-needed sense of normalcy and stability back to our school system did not go unchallenged, nor uncriticized. By many, I might add, who might not admit it today, but they weathered the criticism, believing that most of our students were best back in the classrooms with their fellow students unmasked and in extracurricular activities to challenge and enrich them. Thank you, Marcia. Thank you, Donna, for your commitment to doing the right thing for our kids, even when it was most difficult. I'd also like to thank you both for your commitment to maintaining a focus on academic excellence in our schools. Other jurisdictions may, intentionally or otherwise, allow social priorities to creep into the schools and steal away vital time and energy from our educational mission. But in Carroll County, the two of you have for 8 years worked to keep Carroll County schools focused and effective. So for those things, and for all the other hundreds of things unsaid, thank you once again for your selfless and dedicated service. I can only hope that my own service in the coming years will do honor to your legacies. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Randall Ressett. Okay. Next speaker is Kyle Blackburn.
Good evening. I'm the father of a fifth grade daughter. This past week, I asked her what they did in school for Veterans Day. She said she thought they mentioned it over the announcements, which in my opinion is about the bare minimum. It reminded me of when I asked her what they did in her school on 9/11 to acknowledge the importance of the day. She said they did nothing, not even a moment of silence. My understanding is that the decision is made individually by schools, as I spoke with parents of other same-age children from other schools, and some, but not all, did something to mark the occasion. Just curious if the message should be more uniform throughout the county to acknowledge the significance of that day. Not to dwell in death or despair, but to acknowledge that we were attacked and thousands have lost their lives that day. But more importantly, to concentrate on the heroism and patriotism that followed that demonstrated how united this nation was. This is arguably the most significant date in our history since the attack of Pearl Harbor, and has set the political tone for the past few decades. I could be wrong, but I haven't been able to find anything in the curriculum regarding 9/11 until high school history. I just ask that this become a topic of discussion to determine if there should be some more uniformity regarding the recognition of this day. Secondly, and actually the main reason why I'm here, is I'd like to acknowledge the service of Marcia Herbert and Donna Savigny. I've known Marcia since high school, and I do recognize the Panther red and black. Yes. You're still the only gym teacher that gave me a C, though. To her defense, I probably deserved it. I've had the pleasure of working with Donna the past couple of years on the Family Life Committee. Both of you have served the board with professionalism that reflects well on our entire community, and I thank you for that. Thank you both for your tireless service.
Next speaker is Kit Hart.
Good evening. My name is Kit Hart, and on behalf of our chapter of Moms for Liberty, I'd like to take this opportunity briefly, I promise, to extend our deepest gratitude to Mrs. Savigny and Mrs. Herbert for 8 years of dedicated and courageous service on the Board of Education. Your commitment, resilience, and advocacy for the betterment of Carroll County schools and the community has been truly inspiring. You are both joyful warriors. You fearlessly exhibit grace under pressure and do not allow the noise of your critics to cloud your judgment. During COVID, as many mentioned, we witnessed the ability of elite, unelected bureaucrats to instill fear in the public. Fear that caused people to make decisions that were detrimental to their families, their communities, and to our country. But despite that fear, or perhaps because of it, leaders emerged. Leaders with unwavering courage to seek truth and to act in accordance with it. Both of you have been those types of leaders. You will be truly missed, but you have left behind a legacy which has set Carroll County apart. You have inspired and taught parents, teachers, and all those who care about future leaders to stand up for what is right. And for that, we are forever grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Greg Melville.
Donna Savigny and Marcia Herbert, thank you so much for your service over the years as Carroll County Board of Education members. Your approach to caring for the education and well-being of our public school students has been truly inspiring, and you will be missed. Personally, the advice and mentorship that you've provided me, I see as invaluable. Donna, I really appreciate the truth of your words when you spoke on May 16th at the tribute event to you and Marcia, where you brought everyone back to that time, and we've heard about it a few times today, when our schools were closed during the COVID pandemic. Through your research and reason, you understood the minimal threat that remained for our children to re-enter school. and pushed for reopening for face-to-face instruction. And in the process, you lessened the time for additional learning loss to occur with our students. Your approach as being a leader for this initiative and others directly influenced my desire to run for the Board of Education. And I have taken every opportunity, as you know, to receive and to learn from every piece of advice that you've given me. Thank you. And Marcia, I realized early on that we shared a mutual interest, farming and agriculture. I appreciate how you encouraged me going to meetings with our local farmers, right, and gathering and sharing with their talents. And as a small farm owner, I left these gatherings with amazement for the great impact that our farmers bring to Carroll County. And this influenced my desire to have a strong ag education and trades presence in our schools. Marcia, it took some getting used to, but I have even come to appreciate your no-nonsense, tell it like it is approach to giving advice, right? For example, yes, you do. For example, you made clear to me that I needed to trade in my flannel shirts to put in a nice shirt and tie every once in a while. And I listened. And then again, not every piece of advice was heeded, right? For example, more than once you've said to me, when are you going to cut that hair? When are you going to cut that hair?
I did. I told him those old ladies in Carroll County are not going to vote for him with that man.
I'm keeping it. You got to have your stance somewhere. Well, I got a few old ladies' votes nonetheless. Thank you. I'm almost out of time here. Donna and Marcia, you have huge shoes to fill. It's my honor to have the opportunity to continue with the excellent work that you all provided to our schools and county. You made decisions using intelligence, sound research, and compassion. Thank you for that and much more. Yeah.
Thank you.
Break your water bottle. Oh, yeah, don't forget your water jug.
No, don't forget that. Next speaker is Gary Foote.
There's a scene in Yellowstone, the TV series, not the national park, where Kevin Costner is conversing with his Native American daughter-in-law, and she says this: "When you took over this land 150 years ago, children were stolen, men were killed, families herded away like cattle, and nothing's changed. Except you're the Indian now." Because in the show, it seems someone might actually force John Dutton off his land. Of course, when it was being done by him, everything was fine. But now it's being done to him, and it's not okay. We have landowners here in Carroll County feeling a bit of the same way. And incidentally, they are meeting a few minutes from now over at the Ag Center. Now, I am completely against eminent domain for corporate gain, but wouldn't it be nice if we could acknowledge how things have come to pass? A bit ironic, isn't it, that this is happening in the middle of Native American Heritage Month, a month almost completely forgotten by this school system and this county. Now, Taylor Sheridan ducks an important question in the TV script. What property rights attach to land that was stolen? It's the question our Carroll County residents are ducking right now, and it's the question the school system ducks every time we open our lesson plan books and teach American history as if everything started in 1492. And if I went to the Ag Center and brought this up, I would almost certainly be thrown out of the building, and I certainly can't bring it up anywhere near a school building. Someone would feel badly. So we tell our apocryphal stories, we act out our fictitious pageants, we carry around $20 bills honoring our 7th president who presided over state-sanctioned ethnic cleansing, we talk and sing about Pilgrim's pride and freedom ringing from the mountainsides, and refuse to acknowledge our messy past, when in fact it is very clear that liberty and justice have been and still are only for some. And at the end of the month, we will give thanks to the bounty that can be accrued from the stolen property, gather together to ask the Lord's blessing around a festive table adorned with the carcass of a systematically tortured, sadistically slaughtered bird, and we will not worry about any of it as long as the feast is available from the grocery store for less than 89 cents a pound. Those are the conservative values we have been teaching for the last 150 years. Maybe it's time for a change.
Thank you. And Teresa McCullough.
Remember one night I moved this podium? He about died. Okay. Good evening, Superintendent McCabe, Board of Education members. I am Teresa Basler McCullough, Carroll County citizen, 38-year CCPS veteran educator, retired, and a 7-year former president of CCEA. The first thing my mother said to Marcia Herbert when she found out she was running for BOE was, "Why do you want to do that?" The next thing I knew, Mom was the first one on the campaign trail holding Herbert for BOE signs with her hat on while sitting in a stadium chair. Our parents instilled in us the importance of education and community involvement, which gave Marcia Herbert the drive to run for this office. When she retired, she missed the school-student connection, which also helped make the decision to get in the race. Marcia Herbert treated this position as a full-time job, and being a Basler, she put forth 100% energy 7 days a week. In case you didn't notice, when I referred to the outgoing board president, she is Marcia Herbert. When I speak about my sister, she's Marcia or Mimi. Being a union president and having your sister on the Board of Education was a unique situation. We proved to many citizens and even colleagues that it could work. Marcia and I handled topics and issues with individuality, professionalism, and confidentiality. There were numerous times when something would come up in a conversation and our comment would be, "We can't go there," and we didn't. The Thanksgiving table this year will not be any different than any other since we never talk shop. We weren't always on the same page. One summer, CCA decided to conduct a Flood the BOE members phone action. Well, you should have told me that you were going to a quick getaway. Or better yet, you could have invited me and then we wouldn't have had a problem. Then there was the pandemic, and let me tell you, does that sound familiar? Let me tell you. There were different views about COVID. She experienced the Red for Ed days when this room was flooded with red overflowing into the lobby and other rooms. Right, John? In addition, none of us will forget the "get your shingles shot" disclaimer at the end of every BOE meeting. And I credit and commend Marcia Herbert for supporting educator salaries and making improvements to the workload of special education educators. She took the title of school ambassador seriously and followed the responsibilities through with complete dedication. Marcia Herbert, Mimi, Marcia, whatever, we know you will continue to pursue whatever path this next chapter of life takes you with hard work, effort, commitment, and dedication. The person who fills your seat up there not only has big shoes to fill, but a bigger voice to share. Another Basler quality.
I do have to say one thing about this. This is hilarious. About families. My granddaughters got into these races, and we were going out the driveway one day, and I was taking one of them to the bus stop, and she said, "Mimi, you'll never see another Biden sign with a Marcia Herbert for Board of Education in the same yard." It was so funny, and it was just natural. So anyway, it was just like, but these are the little sidebars that went on with our families, and we just went on. So thank you.
And Delegate Tomlinson.
Chris.
I might be able to make the power line meeting in time. So great to be here. I can't thank you guys enough for everything you've done, Donna, Mrs. Herbert. I don't call you Donna out of disrespect. I call you Miss Herbert out of fear. Because, as you recall, not too long ago, I slipped at something and I called you Marcia and you gave me a death stare. And it did feel very unnatural to call you Marcia. So that's
And I
never
still
going to
call
happen.
Mr. Powson when he was alive,
Yep.
Mr. Powson. I did.
So that's never going to happen again. Yes, I will never call you that. But like everybody's been saying, your work could have stopped after COVID, and that could have been, enough for what you've done for the school board. But you guys went on, hiring our superintendent that we have now, who's been great. Pushing back against, unfortunately, some of the terrible laws and policies that come out of Annapolis, and being a voice of opposition to a lot of the craziness that, quite frankly, comes out of there. And coming into this room, it's weird because I have such negative memories of usually being in this room, going back to the reason that a lot of us are really here, especially you three right there. A lot of us got involved when the school closures happened, and thinking of, I know your son's here, and I'm thinking of, your daughter was, I guess, at Sandy Mount Elementary when this all started back in 2015. Now she's in college. That's crazy. Now I've got a 1-year-old, and it's wild how time has passed so quickly. But as much as I hated the school closures, and it was a terrible time for all of us, in one way, it was a great thing that happened, because it brought a lot of us either into politics or back to politics, and got you three probably in these seats, at least to start with. And I'm thankful that you guys ended up here. So thank you for everything that you guys have done. Really appreciate it. And now that you're off the school board, maybe we'll have a little more time to catch. Like Greg said, that one of the things he realized that he had in common with you was farming, whereas with you and I, it's to grab a cocktail. So
Absolutely.
hopefully you have a little more
We
time.
will.
Okay.
I can throw one back. I don't have a problem with that.
All right, now I'm going to go listen to Power Lines.
Oh, bless you on that one.
Delegate Tomlinson, you gotta remember too. She's gonna be home now, so you might have a babysitter and free horseback riding lessons.
Riding lessons, but not babysitting. No, Abigail's dear. She's be easy. Thank you. All right, and now we will have employee groups. And those two can flip a coin, see who's gonna say something.
She's in the middle of stitches, so I'm going to go first.
That's okay. She's in the middle of a stitch. Okay.
Yeah.
It's very important.
Good evening, Dr. McCabe and members of the Board of Education. I'm Cindy Porter, president of CASE, representing assistants, clericals, and LPNs working in Carroll County Public Schools. I want to begin my remarks this evening by thanking all 4 candidates who ran in the Board of Education race this year. Thank you all for your willingness to take a stand to support education and the students of Carroll County. Congratulations to Dr. Malvo and Mrs. Zimmer. As president of CASE, I look forward to conversations with them both about the importance of education support professionals as an integral part of the community of educators who strive to help our students achieve success. I also want to take this opportunity to sincerely thank Mrs. Savigny and Mrs. Herbert for their dedication to the students of our county as they move on in their own journeys. You are wished the very best in your future endeavors. 2 days ago, our country celebrated Veterans Day. Thank you to the guidance counselors, administrators, and teachers in Carroll County Public Schools who put together such meaningful programs to celebrate this day, and for inviting our local veterans to these events. It is vitally important to help our students understand the meaning of this day and the people who have made it possible. I would be remiss to not thank you, Mr. Whistler, for your service to our country. As an 8-year Army veteran myself, I am grateful to have made the decision to serve my country. My time in the Army shaped my life and helped make me the person I am today. Mr. Whistler and I both experienced people from all walks of life, different backgrounds and beliefs, coming together to work cohesively to achieve our missions. Speaking personally, the commanders I respected the most were those who worked diligently to identify and utilize the strengths of all of those assigned to their command. As a school system, we are at a crucial juncture. In the spring, the Board of Education held a work group speaking to student behaviors and staff injuries after being alerted to the seriousness of these issues. At just a little over 2 months into this school year, out-of-control student behaviors are already having a wide-reaching impact on students, staff, materials, and resources, especially at the elementary and middle school levels. Behaviors are causing classrooms to be evacuated, sometimes more than one time a day, presenting constant disruptions to learning. The repeated nature of many of these behaviors then begin to academically impact the students who exhibit them, causing more referrals to special education, adding to the already massive workload of those teachers and practitioners when the behaviors are the true root of the issue. Classrooms are being trashed, property, both school and personal, is being damaged, and students and educators continue to be traumatized and sometimes injured. I heard comments from quality veteran educators over a month ago who said they don't know if they can stay in this profession anymore. I also know quality veteran educators who have already made the decision to retire or go elsewhere. I have mentioned more than once before in previous comments that educators would like nothing more than to be able to get back to emphasizing academics. But as I mentioned above, we're at a juncture, and it saddens and frustrates me to be saying the same things I said about a year ago. We need to grasp this opportunity to gain a true and accurate understanding of these behaviors and the impact they're having on all aspects of our school system, and collaboratively do everything in our power to do something to address them now before there are any more adverse effects to all parties involved. Thank you.
Thank you.
I was
Good
in the
evening,
middle of a
Celeste.
cluster, so you don't stop in the middle of a cluster.
Okay.
Okay, good evening, Superintendent McKay, board members. I'm Celeste Jordan, president of CCEA. This past Monday was Veterans Day. CCEA would like to take a moment to honor the incredible veterans who have served our country and are now serving our students in schools. Your dedication, courage, and commitment to excellence are inspiring. Thank you for your sacrifices, your leadership, and your unwavering dedication to both the United States of America and our public schools. I want to also acknowledge the many former students I saw at the polls last week. I worked at Winters Mill, and that's where I worked the polls. I am very proud of all my former students who showed up, and especially those who served their country. One of my former students actually served as a Marine and in the Army 2 separate times. Now it's time for my annual lesson on American Education Week, which is celebrated November 18th to November 24th this year. The National Education Association was one of the creators and original sponsors of American Education Week, distressed that 25% of the country's World War I draftees were illiterate and 9% were physically unfit. Representatives from the NEA and American Legion met in 1919 to seek ways to generate public support for education. The conventions of both organizations adopted resolutions of support for a national effort to raise awareness of the importance of public education. In 1921, NEA and American Legion co-sponsored the first American Education Week to be observed in all communities annually for the purpose of informing communities of the accomplishments and needs of the public schools, and to secure the cooperation and support of communities in meeting those needs. We all have a responsibility to prepare children to become engaged citizens of the United States, and just like the creation of American Education Week, we all need to come together to do what's best for every Carroll County student. In the words of President John F. Kennedy, let us not seek the Republican answer or the Democratic answer, but the right answer. Let us not seek to fix blame for the past. Let us accept our responsibility for the future. Tonight, as everyone's noticed, it's the last one for Marcia and Donna here. CCA endorsed Donna in her reelection, and we endorsed Marcia there twice. We may not have always agreed on issues, but I sincerely believe that all of us were doing what we think is best for students who attend Carroll County Public Schools. Thank you for your service to our community during some tough times. Good luck with your endeavors. Marcia, since you are a CCA member, I'm sure I'm going to start seeing more of you at the CCA retired meetings now.
All right, I got the memo. All right, thank you. At this time, we will have board members' activities and also Need you to read your little weekly or daily thing there. And we're going to start with Mr. Whistler.
Thank you, Madam President. First of all, I'd like to say hello to our Teacher of the Year, Brian Thompson. So great to see you. Sorry I missed your ceremony last month. We're very, very proud of you. Very proud of you. I'm going to speak about Veterans Day, and thank you for giving me that honor as a retired naval officer. Veterans Day was commemorated across our nation on Monday, November 11th. On this occasion, we honor the men and women who've served in the United States military. Board members would like to thank all of our veterans, especially those school system employees who have served our country. We celebrate their patriotism, love of country, and willingness to serve and sacrifice. And as far as my personal report, it's been a busy month, so if I can have a little bit of liberty. On October 14th, I visited the CCPS College Fair held at the Shipley Arena. A tremendous thank you to our school counselors and college representatives for helping our college-bound students follow their dreams. Thank you so much. On October 19th, I visited the Carroll County Career and Tech Center to support the Skills USA Big Country Breakfast. Principal Tom Riddle and his team do so much, as always, to help raise money for this really important program. Thanks to many of you in the community who came out to support our students. On October 24th, I visited Northwest Middle School to celebrate their 50th anniversary. Principal Jody Weaver and her team did an amazing job displaying so many artifacts that showcase the school's history. I really enjoyed seeing the yearbooks with pictures of former students that now serve as CCPS teachers and staff. I don't see, oh, there she is. Miss Gramada, you haven't aged at all. Neither has Miss McCallson. So it was really impressive seeing your pictures in those yearbooks, and glad you're serving us today. On October 26th, my wife and I attended a crab and oyster feast in the Manchester area to help support the Manchester Wrestling Club. It was great seeing so many parents there to support our kids. Also saw Dr. Christy Farver there as well. Thanks for supporting them. She's also involved. On November 6th, I attended the Liberty High School Boosters meeting. I really appreciate the hard work of all of our parents throughout the county to help raise funds to support our athletes. Everyone knows that state and county funds are very limited, and I really appreciate our local businesses partnering with our parents to help support our athletes. On November 9th, I attended the Marriage and Relationships Education Center 20th anniversary celebration at the Portico at St. John in Westminster. This organization has done a great job in our schools for the past several years teaching students how to have healthy and productive relationships. I also participated in several Veterans Day ceremonies and activities. On November 10th, I met with the Sykesville residents at Millard Cooper Park. Really appreciative of our Century High School Junior ROTC Honor Guard and band. They did a fantastic job representing our school at that ceremony. On November 11th, I attended Liberty High School's Veterans Breakfast and ceremony in front of the school. I really appreciated the great job of Principal Ken Gons and Assistant Principal Megan Brown, the Honor Guard there, and our choral group for giving veterans a very special event. Later that afternoon on November 11th, I met with students and veterans at Spring Garden Elementary for crafts. Thanks so much to our fine arts supervisor, Greg Killian, Principal Wendy Lechier, and our wonderful art teacher, Mrs. Teresa Greenberg, in our system for over 40 years, I think, for the terrific activities that she gave veterans and parents. Later that evening on November 11th, I participated in a ceremony at Post 223, American Legion in Sykesville, where we honored veterans past and present. And this morning, on November 12th, I participated in the 13th, I participated in a veterans breakfast at the Carroll Hospital alongside two of our county commissioners and many volunteers at Bridging Life who give compassionate care to veterans approaching the end of their lives. So we have unbelievable educators and so many people in our community that make Carroll County what it is today. It's a great place to live. And so this veteran and Navy retiree really appreciates everything you do in our school system and throughout our community to recognize veterans. And then one last thing, I really want to give a shout out to our building maintenance personnel for ensuring that our schools were ready to go the morning after Election Day. And I want to also thank the candidates for removing hundreds, if not thousands, of annoying political signs that littered the landscape. But thanks for picking all that up, and appreciate our building maintenance personnel for getting our schools ready that morning. I know our staff members appreciated the candidates picking up those items as well. And that's all I have, Madam
Thank
President.
you. Dr. Dorsey.
Thank you. First of all, I'll pick up on an upcoming week that Celeste has already referred to, American Education Week. Next week, November 18th through 22nd, we will celebrate American Education Week. This week gives us an opportunity to celebrate public education and honor those who are making a difference in ensuring that every student receives a quality education. We are certainly grateful to our dedicated teachers, support staff, and administrators for all they do for our students. And as always, we appreciate the continued support of our parents and the community as we work together on behalf of our schools and the success of our students. And now for my activities. On October 11th, I attended an Equity Council meeting where we walked through a few sample equity plans to prepare for our regional meetings. On October 14th, I attended the Board of Education Forum. This was, again, the one that our Carroll County Student Government Association sponsored for all of the candidates who are running for the 2 open seats on the Board of Education. So I commend Ms. Lewinsky and Ms. Kang, the timekeepers, Mr. Mailhorn, and all involved for the professional manner in which they led the question and answer session. And our thanks to the candidates, Ms. Dupin, Dr. Jaskowski, Mrs. Zimmer, and Dr.
Malvo.
I want to make sure I put the stress on the right thing because we talked, Dr. Malvo, for being in attendance. So again, and we certainly congratulate our 2 newest members who will be joining us here on the board next month. On October 17th, I had the pleasure to attend the Student Equity Leadership Conference, which was held at Carroll Community College, and that conference brought together students from our high schools who were able to speak with vendors and representatives from colleges and universities. They were able to hear a motivational speech from Billy Live, and they collaborated on ideas to enhance inclusion and belonging in our schools. So thanks to Dr. Moore and her colleagues for planning this successful conference. On October 23rd, the Conference Program Committee for MABE had a planning meeting. I met with the conference co-chair and MABE staff to prepare for our final meeting of the year. October 24th, I attended the Chamber of Commerce breakfast meeting with Dr. Basu presenting economic information, and later that evening I attended Northwest Middle School's 50th anniversary celebration. Again, it was a pleasure to take a walk back in time as I looked back through past yearbooks and mementos from Northwest Middle School's archives. We thank Mrs. Weaver and her staff for hosting this event for the community. On October 29th, Mrs. Lilly and I met with our equity liaisons from our assigned southern region to discuss their plans for the year. November 6th, I attended a conference program committee meeting, and this was the meeting in which we debriefed our 2024 MABE annual conference. And just a few tidbits of information: there were 201 registered attendees, 4 more than last year. Feedback was received on lessons learned and things to remember for future conferences as it related to speakers, content, breakout sessions, workshops, and hot topics. We reviewed evaluation results and noted that not many attendees used the QR codes that were provided. So next year we will probably use a combination pencil-paper survey to get some feedback from attendees. The vast majority of the respondents indicated that they were either extremely satisfied or satisfied with the session content, information takeaways, networking opportunities, speakers, and overall satisfaction categories. The roundtable discussions and our state superintendent, Dr. Wright, earned high ratings under extremely satisfied. So now planning for next year's conference will begin. Again, I thank Dr. McCabe, President Herbert, and Board Member Whistler for attending the conference this year, and again, Mr. O'Mealy and Mr. O'Neill for presenting, and we hope that everyone on the board will put it on their calendars to attend the MABE conference for the next year. November 8th, I attended an Equity Council meeting. Information on inclusion in Carroll County Public Schools was presented by Kate Smith. There were many takeaways, but one important message was that there is definitive data that show that all students benefit when we create inclusive schools and classroom communities, when we create environments where all students belong. So thanks to Ms. Smith for sharing, and to Dr. Moore again for facilitating the meeting. And I'm also thankful for the community members who give of their time to collaborate with staff. November 11th, Veterans Day, I attended a special Veterans Day program at Garrison Forest Cemetery, which highlighted and honored the sacrifice of those who died in our country's service and those who are still alive, who love our country and show a willingness to serve and sacrifice for the common good. During the program, State Comptroller Brooke Learman delivered the keynote address, but we also heard some heartfelt messages and remembrances from veterans and a Gold Star mother. I'm grateful that my husband had the opportunity to serve in the U.S. Army, and my thanks to all veterans for your service. And finally, this morning, I participated in the annual mock interviews at Carroll County Career Tech Center. I thank Sarah Jones, the Career Connections Coordinator, for extending an invitation for me to participate. Again, it was another meaningful activity for students, and the students are just so impressive. I mean, what they bring to the table, it's just unbelievable. So many thanks to all staff members who have really poured into our students to get them to the point where they can sit before you and share just so eloquently and just have just a lot of rich experiences and takeaways to share.
Thank
So again, it was a good experience.
Ms. Battaglia.
This week is School Psychology Awareness Week. This special week recognizes the work that school psychologists do to help their communities and encourage everyone to celebrate their important work and learn how they help students, families, and communities every day. Thank you to our school psychologists for their commitment to providing critical support for our students and families. Some of my activities, October 19th, I attended the Career and Tech Skills Breakfast, which was absolutely amazing. And make sure everybody marks their calendars now for the December 14th Career and Tech Breakfast with Santa. That will be from 7 to 11, and they will have a holiday mart on the same day from 7 to 2. October 27th, I attended the community trunk or treat at the Carroll County Ag Center. And the same weekend, I also attended the crab feed at the for Manchester Wrestling that is associated with the North Carroll Rec Council. Both my son and my daughter both participated in the wrestling program, so I always do enjoy giving back and donating to that program. It is a very large program. They offer scholarships, so I always want to make sure we are participating in various community activities. I also attended the Ag Day that Manchester Valley High School had, which was absolutely incredible. It was much larger than last year, and I mean much larger because they had ponies, pigs, sheep, goats, rabbits. They had a snake, chickens and rabbits and all kinds of different critters. So very well attended. Different classes took turns to come out and see what was going on. And again, it was just, it's very well supported by the community and by the staff and administrators there, so I'm glad that they participate in that. I'm currently in my 5th week of my 2 college classes. I'm currently enrolled in Behavioral Health for Life Issues and Perspectives and Anthropology of Language and Communication. Very interesting classes. I'm like, okay, not what I expected, but it is really interesting. I also have earned my certification of completion from Light University and Foundations of Youth Mental Health Coaching. I am set up to take Importance of Nutrition and with Disease and my capstone beginning in January, and I have applied for my graduation to be this spring. So I'm very excited for those things coming up. Today is World Kindness Day. Out in the lobby you will find tokens of kindness, so please feel free to take one and share one. Also, report cards came home today, so please do not allow your child to tell you that, oh no, it didn't come in my book bag, it's not in my folder, I don't know what you're talking about. Nope, they came home, so check them out, check the book bags. There's lots of activities this coming weekend. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have one at home who's like, I don't know what you're saying. I don't think so. I know how she is at this point. So this weekend there are some activities going on with various high school drama productions. So please log on to your local high school to check out. I know Liberty High School has one, and so does Westminster High. So please make sure you go and see everything that our kids are doing. I do want to wish good luck to all the students who are trying out for winter sports. That is another big thing coming up, and for report cards, of course, a lot of that's going to play on that one. So upcoming events, there is an LAC meeting tomorrow. I will not be attending that because I'm going to the Ebb Valley Thanksgiving dinner, which is absolutely yummy, and I can't wait for that. We have the CAC meeting here on November 19th, and the new board member swearing-in ceremony will be on December 9th, and I'm looking forward to working with our 2 new board members. Ladies, real quick, I forgot to say earlier, Commissioner Kyler wanted me to tell you that he is very sorry he could not be here to roast you. He was looking forward to that, but he is currently at the Carroll meeting. So, but he does say thank you guys for everything you have done and for your service for the community. I still would like to hear him roast you, though. I do want to thank our vets and for all the activities that our school system did without the communities for many vets in our community. Serving our country, it's a thankless job, and we do take advantage of our liberties. So thank you to all of our vets. Thank you, Steve. And everyone, have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Having Veterans Day and thanking our vets, we also need to just thank everything that we have in our lives. A lot of times we take it for granted. So, but then everyone have a good one.
Okay, Mrs. Savigny, you're not next. We're going to go with Chloe.
Okay, so I'm gonna try to make this really quick. So we had the Board of Education Candidate Forum on October 14th. Mason was there, Maddie was there, and then Enya and we were able to run the forum. I'd like to also thank Mr. Melhorn for helping us set up the whole thing, and Mr. Flaherty for all of his work behind the scenes, and to our 4 candidates who came out for letting us know their stances on student issues, which I think really helps civic engagement start early, which I think is like a very important thing for our students. CCSGA also held their first General Assembly on October 16th. We had a lot of turnout, and I'd like to thank Superintendent McCabe for joining us that morning to give a message of encouragement and a message about what leadership means for students. And I also got to present 2 workshops on teamwork and communication and the legislative process. And then Maryland student member of the Board of Education applications are out. So the Maryland Association of Student Councils asks that nominations are due November 15th by SGA advisors. And yesterday, November 12th, CCSGA had a staff meeting, which I was unable to attend because I missed my connecting flight from North Carolina to Maryland. So I got home really late. But I heard that it was a really good meeting, and we were able to plan for both our December and our February General Assembly. And again, like Ms. Battaglia said, report cards did come out today. I hope that everybody's first quarter went well and that there was a good start to the second quarter now that we're getting into the flow of things. I'd also like to thank all of our fall athletes for a very good season, and to thank all of our referees and athletic trainers for being there. And good luck to all of our teams who are going to state finals. I know boys and girls Liberty Soccer are going this Saturday to state finals, and I know a couple of other golf teams are going. Wow, there's so much. And then lastly, all county band and orchestra auditions were last week and yesterday. And I'd like to say congrats to all of the people who were able to go to all county and to try out, and also for those who were able to make it onto those bands and orchestras. And to say good luck to those auditioning for all state band and orchestra, chorus, and commercial band that will be held next week on Saturday.
Thank you. Ms. Savigny.
First, I'll read the National Career Development Month. November has been designated as National Career Development Month. Career and technical education is an important part of the blueprint for Maryland's future. Carroll County Public Schools provides opportunities for students at all grade levels to explore careers. We appreciate the staff members and local businesses who help our students discover career options and prepare them for a successful future. All right, and now on to the farewell speech. In lieu of the monthly correspondence, it's been 8 years and there are so many people to thank. So I apologize if this goes on for a bit longer than usual. But it's been an incredible journey for me over the last 8 years, and there are a lot of people to thank. So first and foremost, I want to thank my family for understanding the time commitment and sacrifices that I needed to make in order to be an effective leader for this community. I couldn't have done it without their unwavering support. So thank you, Bubby. Thank you, Jay, for being here. You guys are my rock. Yeah. And by the way, Grace texted me right at the start of this meeting, so she was aware as well. You guys are amazing, and thank you for all of your support. Oh, and by the way, Evan, this is not how these meetings typically go. Usually by 5:30, we're down to business.
Yeah.
But it's been truly humbling tonight to hear folks get up and speak to us on our last meeting, Marcia. I think the last time we had this many speakers, it was on something really contentious.
Yeah,
So it was
yeah.
truly a pleasure tonight. So thank you to everyone who came out. Next, I want to thank the tens of thousands of Carroll County residents who put their trust in me by electing me and then re-electing me to serve our community and our amazing students and our wonderful CCPS staff. I also want to thank my past and current colleagues that I've had the immense pleasure of serving with on this board. Pat and Tyra, I've been so lucky to be able to work with both of you for the last 6 years. While we haven't always agreed on every topic, I truly appreciate the open and honest conversation while we've all worked in the best interest of our students. Pat, like I said, and just like you said earlier tonight, we haven't always agreed, but the communication and the honest discussions have been so fruitful and I think get us in a better place at the end of the day. And your poise and your eloquence under any type of situation and topic is just amazing. And so thank you for being a true partner on this board. And Tyra, I just want to say your big mama bear hug approach, for student safety and well-being is just so refreshing. And it's been a pleasure to serve with you for the last 6 years. I know you both will continue to do great things as you finish out the remainder of your terms as well. And before that, we got to work with Kenny Kyler for 4 years before he moved on to commissioner. So it's too bad that he couldn't be here tonight. But there was never a dull moment with Kenny on the board. And I thank him for some truly insightful, interesting, and many times entertaining conversations. And Steve, it's only been 2 years, but it's been a great 2 years. I wish it could have been longer. You've been a great addition to this board, and I know you will go on to do great things as well for the remainder of your term and hopefully more. And I will miss working with you, especially on budget issues where we're very closely aligned. So thank you for your incredible engagement over the last 2 years. I especially want to give a huge shout out to my girl, Marcia. Since she and I were elected at the same time, we've been a strong and successful team through thick and thin. When we met 9 years ago as on the campaign trail, we became fast friends.
Yep.
Really understood that our approaches to things were very different, but our goals were exactly the same. And so you've been an amazing partner for the last 8 years, and I couldn't be more proud of what we've accomplished together. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve beside you for 8 years.
Thank you.
And I hope to see you in bigger and better things from now on, too.
I am. You will.
Okay. All right.
I'm not going to sit still.
Okay.
I know that.
And Chloe, as you said earlier, it's been just a short period of time, but in that short time, I can tell you're going to go on to do great things in this world. So I wish you nothing but success in your future endeavors. I'm going to take a quick victory lap here with Marcia and, kind of tally up some of the accomplishments that we've had from the past 8 years. I'm going to be quick about it, though.
That's okay.
We created a vision and a strategic plan for continuous improvement with accountability, ownership, and regular tracking of progress. And most importantly, we've always had a focus on student achievement. We tempered wide-sweeping redistricting discussions and had the unenviable task of trying to bring this community back together after very difficult school closure times. And I think we did an okay job.
That was tough.
And
Worse.
we had dramatic improvement in communication and relationships with the commissioners. And because of that, we were able to get alignment with the commissioners for consistent annual increases in the budget. We stopped them from using us as a balancing item, right? And that really enabled the planning process. And that allowed us to provide considerable raises for our educators each and every year for the last 8 years, even during the pandemic. And that had not been done for the 6 years before that. So we created an FCI concept along with the staff to get alignment with the commissioners on capital costs and investments. And that directly led to us being able to jumpstart the career and tech and the East Middle projects and get those done after years of stagnation on both of those projects. We hired not one, but 2 superintendents during our tenure.
Yes.
And they were both the right person for the job at each juncture. And Cindy, I'll get to you in a minute. We started a long-term technology strategy in 2018 that ended up being instrumental for COVID.
Yeah.
And then during COVID, we were the first to open for in-person instruction, the first to restart sports, the first to get masks off of our kids, the first to do away with nonsensical quarantining guidelines, the first to do so many things, and provided a clear roadmap for the rest of the state amongst heavy opposition.
Yeah, right.
But in the end, we were right.
Yep,
We were right. We developed common sense policies, keeping politics out of the classroom and fighting for parental rights. We developed a family-friendly version of the family life curriculum. With the blueprint, we led the state in pushing back on fiscally irresponsible and infeasible courses of action and are still fighting to maintain local control wherever possible.
Yeah.
And most importantly,
Keep the fight up.
keep up the fight, that's right. Our students are consistently performing at the top of the state. We're way outperforming our number 8 gross income ranking in the state, which is typically a pretty good gauge for where things, and we are blowing that away on a regular basis. And we did it for one of the lowest costs per student in the state at the same time.
We're very efficient.
So we've always kept that first and foremost in our minds, student achievement, and so proud of our students for how they rise to every challenge. Okay, so now on to more thank yous. Next, I want to thank all of our hardworking educators, our support staff, our central office staff that have spent countless years working hard to make CCPS a truly special place for our students. While we faced some very difficult challenges over the years, we never forgot that we are all here for one reason and one reason only, our students' success. Next, I want to thank our current and past commissioners for collaborating with us for the past 8 years and funding education at levels where we've been able to give our educators considerable raises every year for 8 years. This is one of mine and Marcia's campaign promises 8 years ago, and I'm proud to say that we did it and we lived up to that promise. I also want to thank Senator Reedy and our delegates over the years, Susan Krebs, April Rose, Haven Shoemaker, Chris Tomlinson, and Josh Stonko. They've always fought for the good fight for Carroll County and Annapolis and have been unwavering advocates for local control of the school system. I want to thank them for remaining steadfast in their support of our school system and this board during some very challenging times. Next, I want to thank Ed O'Mealy and Rochelle Eisenberg. While most residents don't fully understand the positive impact that such a strong legal counsel shares, that they can provide, I certainly do, especially with my years as president when I reached out to Ed regularly. Carroll County is fortunate to have such a strong legal team that shares our commitment to students. Ed and Rochelle, I will reach out to her separately since she couldn't be here tonight, but you provided sound guidance all along the way. You reined us in when we needed it, you pushed us when we needed it, and you answered every one of my literally thousands of questions with honesty and integrity and never 1 ounce of snarkiness. And I thank you for that. I think this community owes a great deal of gratitude to you both, even though they may not realize it, so thank you. I think we can proudly say that CCPS is the best school system in the state. We're the growth engine for Carroll County, and we're one of only a few counties in the state that has grown over the last 5 years. That's because families see how we keep the system focused on education. They see how we keep politics and distractions out of our classrooms, and they want to live here so that their kids can thrive and get a great education in a safe environment. And speaking of safety, I also want to thank Sheriff Jim DeWeese and the SRO staff. They truly do a great job, even during challenging times like the defund the police movement of a couple of years ago. Sheriff DeWeese and our SROs never wavered in their dedication to ensuring a safe environment for our students and our staff. And next up, Andy, our trusted admin. Carrie and Brenda, our amazing communication staff. And Bob, I think he's hiding over there behind the pillar. Thank you so much for all of your help and support along the way with all my IT questions and needs. So you guys are amazing team over here off to the side, always making sure everything runs smoothly and providing your help and support. And Carrie helping with, while I was president, with all of those, like, okay, how do I say this the right way? And finally, I want to thank Superintendent McCabe, her fine assistant supers, John O'Neill and Nick Shockney, as well as the entire extended cabinet, and you folks sitting in the back of the room this evening. You've all suffered through countless hours of board meetings and work sessions.
A lot of questions.
A lot of questions, and I apologize for that right here. A lot of questions. Thank you all for bearing with me. And providing meaningful presentations and guidance for enhancing the school system. You have all truly done an amazing job with running the school system, staying focused on our priorities, and making recommendations to this board, always in the best interest of our students. Cindy, you've been totally unflappable for the last, I guess, the full 8 years. You've been here, but especially the last several years as superintendent. I mean, you are just calm in the face of the storm, and it's just been truly amazing how you face all of these challenges with grace and integrity. You are the best superintendent for the school system, and we chose wisely. Thank you for everything that you do. And Andy, you have a Theodore Roosevelt quote hanging in your office that says, "Do what you can with what you have where you are." And I think CCPS and this board embodies that sentiment. While there's still so many challenges ahead, I truly believe that CCPS is in good hands, and we're poised to move forward to even greater heights. We have 2 new BOE members who are sitting in the audience this evening who are qualified and committed to making sure CCPS continues to move forward. They're outstanding people with kids in the school system. They have a vested interest, and I look forward to seeing great things from them. I'm confident that the collaboration of staff and the transition to this next board is going to be seamless. In closing, I want to say that while serving on this board hasn't always been easy, it has been tremendously rewarding, thanks to everyone in this room and countless others. It's been a privilege to serve beside Marcia and our other board members for the last 8 years, and it has been an absolute honor to have served this community. Thank you all.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you so much. This is tough. Yeah. Well, here we go. As I look back over our past 8 years, I am very proud of all we have accomplished as a Board of Education. We've been through so many challenges, yet we successfully navigated through each one. Some of those more challenging than others. We never imagined we would be facing COVID, for example, but yet we persevered and got through it successfully. I am also proud of all the wonderful things we've accomplished for this school system. It is an honor to be a member of a Board of Education that cares so much deeply about education and well-being of our students and our employees. I firmly believe that our best decision was hiring Dr. McCabe as our superintendent of schools. Cindy, I cannot thank you enough. She's a rock, and she is always composed. And you all know that I can come in there like a bat out of hell and like a tornado in the office anywhere. Come on in, let's talk about it. But she has been a wonderful leader. I wish you many more years and continued success. I would like to thank everyone in your office, and I'm talking about all of you, Ed, Bob, and those two guys back there with some hair and some not so much hair, because you all knew I come in there like I'm crazy sometimes, but you all accepted me and said, we'll figure it out, because I always want the best for our students and our employees. As you can imagine, at times, it is a challenge keeping me straight, but your office seems to be able to accomplish that. As I leave the board, I do know we are in really good hands as I look at all of you. And I do have a few people that I would like to thank. And first and foremost is my family. Most people don't realize that being a board member, to me, was a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week job. It didn't matter if it was Sunday morning or Friday night or Monday afternoon or Kenny calling me at 6 o'clock in the morning. But we were there. We needed to be there. It requires patience and supportive family who understood the phone calls, the meetings, and my time away from the farm. I could not have done this job without the understanding and support of all you in that back row. You will never know how much I love and appreciate you all. Secondly, I want to thank all of you and my past board members too. I've got to know you. We've all worked together. We respect each other, and we got a hell of a lot done. And I am not ashamed of anything that we have done. It's always been for the students and for the teachers and for our employees. It's been a wonderful job, pleasure working for you. And a special thanks to Donna Savigny. We campaigned together in 2 elections and joined the board at the same time. Donna, I respect you. I always have, and we've worked so well together. We've had a lot of talks at your house, on the phone, in cars, but we got the job done in the best interest of the students and our employees here. And I also would like to thank Kenny Kyler, my partner in crime. And I don't know what I would have done without him, because we talked all the time, and I listened to him for guidance and support all the time. You were always there for me when I needed someone to talk to and to listen, and so did Donna. And I can't thank Rhonda enough to try to keep him straight. I would like to extend my appreciation to the members of the superintendent's cabinet and our administration. You guys know that I would come in there, or I would complain about something. I would be like a bull in a china closet, but we got it done. If I wanted something fixed, you got it done, both in schools and central office. Thank you for all you do in a day, in and out our school system. You have been an incredible resource for me throughout the last 8 years, and I appreciate your wealth of knowledge, your time, and patience you have had with my questions and concerns. And you two here in the front need to appreciate them and use them at all times as guidance, information, because they are your go-to people, and they are always so welcoming. I've always enjoyed, and you all know this, my visits to school and central office, and I am grateful for the warm way in which you always welcomed me. And when I did campaign, and even though I was a teacher for over 40 years, I went and visited every school during when I campaigned. I wanted them to know who I was, and what I wanted to do for the students and staff at Carroll County Public Schools. To each and every employee in this school, no matter what your role is, you do outstanding jobs. Thank you for your dedication and your tireless work. You are the reason that Carroll County Public Schools is one of the best school systems in the state. To our bus drivers, you know you are all near and dear to my heart, always have been. Thank you for taking care of our students and transporting them safely to and from school every day. A special thank you to our students and parents. We have incredibly supportive parents and a community that values and supports education. Has truly been a pleasure representing you as a board member. We have the best students you could ask for, and I'm always amazed at their accomplishments. And this goes way back, and I want to thank Tracy McCoy and Fallon Patton Perry, my two campaign managers, who actually got me started up and running when I decided to seek my first term. Thanks to this Republican Central Committee and Carroll Republican Victory for unwavering support throughout all my campaigns. And my posse, Haven Shoemaker, Mike Stewart, and Alan Culver. Thank you for supporting my campaign and supporting the Board of Education. And I have to do a special thank you to my go-to girl, Carrie Gaddis. Thank you. You helped me out so much, and I thank you. As my time on the board comes to an end, I know I'm leaving the system in good hands. I'm excited for our two new board members to begin, and I wish you all the best of luck. It's not going to be easy. It has been an incredible 8 years. I will never forget the friends I've made, especially you, Donna, and the people I've worked with and the experiences I've had. I have met some incredible people that I would have never met if I wouldn't have been on the Board of Education. Thank you to everyone, and I promise you, I'm not going away. I'll tell you that right now. And I've got bigger and better plans, and you have not seen the last of me. I'm still involved in supporting education, and I'll be advocating for what is best for our students and staff. So this is not really a farewell. I will be seeing you soon. Now, on another note, as you know, and this is all thanks to Carrie and Bob and that crew, I frequently show videos during my board report. So a final video I thought would end on a very positive note, showing some footage of Brian Thompson, our Teacher of the Year, sitting there in our little group here today, reflects all that is good about our teachers and our teaching profession. And I thank you all from the bottom of my heart.
How many instruments do you play?
Anything that's not guitar.
It's impressive.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to some real stuff here. The superintendent's report.
I just want to thank Brian Thompson again for being with us this evening and for being a wonderful representative for all of our great teachers in the school system. I'd like to begin this evening by congratulating the FFA chapters from Francis Scott Key, South Carroll, and Winters Mill High Schools for the medals and awards they received at the National FFA Convention and Expo. In the team events, Francis Scott Key brought home a gold medal in dairy evaluation and a silver medal in ag mechanics. South Carroll won a bronze medal in meat evaluation, and Winters Mill won silver in agricultural communications. Students from the 3 schools also earned 3 gold, 7 silver, and 5 bronze medals in individual events. And now I would like to congratulate several of our employees who have received awards since our last board meeting. Christine Bechtel, Supervisor of Special Education Middle Schools, has been selected to receive the Ralph Edwards Diversity and Social Impact Award presented by TASH, an international leader in disability awareness. The award acknowledges her leadership and commitment to building inclusive and equitable communities, prioritizing populations who have been chronically underserved, undervalued, and chronically marginalized, specifically students with special needs. Bruce Lesh, Supervisor of Elementary Social Studies, was selected by the American Historical Association to receive the James Harvey Robinson Prize for his teaching aid entitled Developing Historical Thinkers, Supporting Historical Inquiry for All Students. This prize is awarded biennially for a teaching aid which has made the most outstanding contribution to the teaching and learning of history. Catherine Burling, Library Media Specialist at Tawnytown Elementary School, who I see sitting here with us this evening, was named the 2024 Maryland School Librarian of the Year by the Maryland Association of School Librarians. This award recognizes exemplary service and outstanding contributions to the field of school library media. Danielle Schwessinger, Library Media Specialist at Elmer Wolf Elementary School, was recognized as a finalist for the award. Pamela Mesta, Supervisor of ESOL, was selected to receive a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Maryland Teaching English to Speakers of Other Languages Association. This award is presented to individuals who have been working in the ESOL field in Maryland for at least 15 years and who have made substantial and exemplary contributions to the field, its students, and/or teachers at any educational level. And finally, as Ms. Herbert mentioned in her report, or I don't think you may have this evening.
No, I didn't.
Tim Blizzard,
No, I'll let you do it.
applied mechanical engineering teacher for the Manufacturing, Engineering, and Technology program at the Carroll County Career and Technology Center, was named a Maryland Manufacturing Star in Carroll County by the Regional Manufacturing Institute of Maryland. Congratulations to all of these employees for their outstanding accomplishments. And before I end, I just want to thank all of our veterans, the veterans in our staff and our school community for everything they've done for us, as well as all of the schools for the veterans programs that they've put on to teach our children the importance of what our veterans have done. And then finally, another thank you for Marcia Herbert and Donna Savigny for their service.
All right, thank you. All right, and now we will have a presentation, blueprint updates. Take it away, boys.
It's been a few months since we have had a public blueprint update, but certainly the work of blueprint implementation continues. If anything, we are more immersed in blueprint implementation than ever. Mr. O'Neill and Mr. Shockney are here to provide updates on some of our key initiatives.
It seems anticlimactic now. Want to skip it and just go home? No motion. Got a motion? Okay. So the clicker works. As Dr. McCabe said, it's been a few months since we've given a public report. We might have gone away, but the blueprint sure did not. And so we wanted to just give an update on some of the major components that are underway. I always try at least to take a minute and thank all of the different staff and folks who are involved in this work, and probably never really do it full justice. Everyone in this room, lots of people not in this room, staff, folks sitting to my other side here in the room, and even county government officials in some ways for this first topic, have all been just pouring countless hours of time, energy, intelligence, expertise into the blueprint, and I do want to make a point to acknowledge that. So the areas we wanted to give an update on tonight, the first one's fiscal compliance. This goes back to even 2 years ago when Dr. McCabe was beginning her town halls for the first time, talking about what does the blueprint law mean in terms of where funding has to go at the school level, and what might that mean in terms of change for our school system. We were one of the counties sort of early on leading the charge for some reasonableness, and we were asking, if you remember, for some flexibility, some extension of timelines so that we didn't have to make that dramatic shift all in fiscal 25. The state responded by policy of giving us a 3-year phase-in period. And so beginning in the current year we're in, and then over the next couple of years, we have to bring the school system at the school budgeting level into fiscal compliance with, as you remember, within all of the blueprint programs, the money being spent in the programs and most of the money being spent at the school level. That process is one of the many questions that's part of the blueprint implementation plan. And that was the one part of our plan that the AIB wasn't fully satisfied with our initial submission, and so we had to offer a revised response to that question. That was due November 12th. In some of the earlier board docs, it might have said the 18th. That was a typographical error of wishful thinking on my part. It was actually due Tuesday. So we have submitted a final response. It won't become public until it's vetted through the AIB and we see what their response would be. But more importantly than just responding to the plan and to that question, the superintendent's method for us addressing the issue of fiscal compliance was to form a system-wide work group to really kind of delve into what it means for reallocating resources, the general topics that she's spoken on in the past. That she formed that at the turn of the fiscal year. The work group's been meeting for months now. It involves all those folks I mentioned and more. And we're working very hard to try by the holiday break to the winter break to put together a framework of a plan that we can then finalize in January, so that when Superintendent McCabe brings her proposed budget to the Board of Ed, FY26 operating budget to the Board of Ed, it would include the final report of that work group, and we can have those conversations married together throughout the budget process. So lots of work going on here to try to move us towards a deeper understanding of fiscal compliance and what that will look like for our schools. And I would anticipate that beginning in that January timeline, a lot of public outreach as well from the superintendent, from other staff, different stakeholder groups, to try to bring awareness and understanding as to what that means. You remember that we celebrated that we were able to successfully achieve a career ladder with not just our Teachers Association, but also our A&S Association last year in collective bargaining. Those were submitted not just timely, but well in advance of deadlines to the AIB, and that structure has been approved, and that's great news. That was much cause for appropriate celebration. But having the framework, the structure, and the requisite salary scale is really just part of what it means to implement a career ladder under the blueprint. There's still the other major components, such as the teacher time requirements, the time spent in direct instruction, and the time spent in other professional activities, as well as the teacher leadership roles at the higher levels, particularly the fourth level of the 4-level career ladder, and what that would look like, and what those roles and responsibilities would look like. So that work continued on immediately without pause, and we've been meeting for a long time with CCA and periodically with EPSASCO, the A&S employee group, and we've made some progress, and we're not finished yet. We don't have work to share yet, but in roughly that same timeline that I mentioned for fiscal compliance, we hope to be able to produce reports to suggest we think we can map this out, and we think we can show what a career ladder would look like fully implemented in schools. And even then, that's just the next step in the conversation, because from there it will become a conversation about how does that then look phased in over the next 8 years of Blueprint. And fiscally, how does that look to phase in over the next 8 years of Blueprint? This work also led us to, and Nick is as much a part of these things that I'm describing as anyone, led us to an understanding that also this aspect of Blueprint might make us want to look at how our schools are structured in the day. And so he has some updates there.
Sure. To take a closer look at how we're going to act, or how could we implement the teacher time requirements, teacher leadership positions, we developed some scheduling committees, one for each level. As you are aware, under the Blueprint, there is that breakdown of a 60-40 day for teachers, 60 being instructional, 40% being professional activities. In our current models, we're a little different, elementary, middle, and high, but overall, roughly, we're kind of at an 80-20 model or structure as it stands currently. So that's going to be a little different. So we've got some folks together. Their work is in progress. There's nothing that's been determined or finalized by any means, but the group has just strategized some ideas and started to talk about what it is that we could do that would bring us, that would help us implement a model where roughly the teacher day is split into 60-40. So great work. I'm very proud. Like Mr. O'Neill said, it's a collective effort from a lot of different folks and a lot of different stakeholders along the way. Still have lots more work to do, but I think it's important that we do the work now so we know what's ahead of us and we can start to look at over that 8-year implementation window how we're going to go about doing so.
Thank you. Comments, questions?
One last item that we've talked a little bit about. This one's, I think, just good news. We've talked long and hard about our sort of challenges with staffing the past few years and the number of new teachers we were bringing on board, and a strong desire to sort of find a way to improve some support for those teachers in the early part of their career. And so we have now entered into a formal partnership with Towson University. So this is just one more partnership among others that already exist with IHEs, with colleges and universities. And we're in a developmental process stage this year of working out a teacher induction support program for teachers. Still some content development and other work to do there, but we now know that we'll be in a place to implement that next year with new teachers. And we have turned the talents of Dr. Frank Grossman, our AIB facilitator, into this area, so he's been a tremendous resource there. And you have been a tremendous resource there because you assigned fund balance to pay for this for next year. So here's some good news Blueprint, some no anxiety Blueprint, and we wanted to share that as well.
Yeah, this is big, and I hope the people out there watching can see this, and we should. This is a big step, and as I said, this is led by Dr. McCabe and thinking out of the box, and you all working with her, and this is going to be a really big plus for CCPS, and we will be able to get more educators into our system a lot faster. And I thank you all for working on this. Ms. Savigny?
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly say thanks for all your hard work on this. I know this is something that's been in the works and we knew was needed for a long time. So thanks for thinking so creatively and outside the box to figure out how to put it together and how to fund it. So appreciate
Money
that.
well spent. Yeah, thank you all for that. All right, now we will move on to the school's construction report. Dr. McCabe.
The monthly school construction report updates us on the status of our major projects under construction or in the design phase. Mr. Marks is available for any questions you may have.
All right.
Okay.
Here we go.
I cannot let the last meeting
Yeah,
go,
right.
Mr.
I was going to
Marks,
say,
with that.
she cannot not asked you a question.
I didn't really have a whole lot of questions just because this report has continued to evolve over time and is very informational, and I appreciate it. Though I did have a question about the Mount Airy Elementary School HVAC replacement. And do we have any concerns with being able to complete that on time with the vast majority of the project kind of being pushed to phase 2?
No, we're working out a really good plan now with the contractor throughout the winter, and they're able to achieve a little bit of work in the boiler room area and other areas where we don't affect instruction or staff at all. So we're going to be okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to be okay for next summer.
Great. And I guess the biggest other question that I had was on the kindergarten additions and the pre-K and kindergarten additions. And we'll get to that probably later on. But my biggest concern right now is that this is a lot of projects all at one time. Do we literally have the capacity and the resources to handle that?
We do, thanks to you all, and thanks to your help. Yeah, we and in this meeting, obviously, we hijacked the agenda. We didn't really mean to do that with all those approvals.
Yes,
but,
you did.
But it's necessary.
I have lots of questions.
It's very necessary to keep things rolling. The 4 kindergarten additions, along with the pre-K element that you're approving tonight for the CD packages, that allows us to go out and bid immediately and get these moving this summer. And then the next, the 6 that you're looking at for the schematic design approvals, those will start next summer. So the roller coaster's moving along, okay? And we don't feel that we're overloaded right now with our capacity as a group to run these and contractor-wise. And then there'll be another wave of pre-Ks after those 6 that helps us go along to implement the blueprint plan and get everything ready. So we're looking forward to it, but we feel we're fine right now.
Okay. I know we did try to backfill some resources with
Yes.
knowing that there were a lot of projects coming up, or
Yes.
even and with Career and Tech and East Middle for the longest time, still ongoing, right? But I just wanted to check in because it's a lot of they're smaller projects, but
Yes.
a sheer number of them.
But and a lot goes into them. Even though they're small 1 or 2 or 3 room additions, so much goes into them, including stormwater management and everything else that follows. All the utility interfaces that we have to change that are going around a school that that we conflict with. So yes, and staff wise, we're going to be fine. Thanks to your help, and we have our extra staff. We're ready to go.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And thank you for everything.
Thank you both for all your help. I know I'll probably be up here again for the meetings.
Yes, you will be. I know you will be.
Thanks so much for support.
All right, now we'll move on to staffing analysis and class size report. Dr. McCabe.
Each year in the fall, we provide a report on class sizes and staffing across all 3 school levels. Mr. Shockney will share the highlights, and then he and the 3 school level directors will be available for questions and comments.
All right, good evening, board members. Pleasure to be back. Just wanted to point out on the cover page there, you have the 3-year trend in average class sizes. At the elementary level, it is 23.3 students, up 0.6 from last school year. In middle schools, it's 25.7, up 0.4 from the previous school years. And at the high school level, it is 22.9, up 0.4 from the previous school year. Just a little summary about staffing and how we arrived at this point. Probably the biggest impact to the elementary level, prior to this past school year, there were 16 class size reduction positions that were grant funded. As we've talked about before, those positions ran out. We did shift 3 FTE from the high school level to the elementary level to attempt to offset that impact. So slight upticks in class sizes. You've heard us talk about class sizes related to the blueprint and other things before. Obviously something that's important to us, important to our teachers and staff. But as always, we're finding a way to make it work with the resources that we have. But that is the biggest change, was the reduction in the 16 class size reduction positions from the previous school year. But again, we're making it work. I have the 3 school directors and Ms. Whittle here. If you have any questions, we'd be more than happy to answer them for you.
Questions, comments? Ms. Savigny?
Couldn't even get my card up before she called my name. I appreciate seeing this report every year, as always. I kind of went through it, and was circling some places where there's some anomalies, and, I know that this is something that you have to put a lot of time into every year to decide, okay, where do we need to move one or two additional resources to kind of smooth this out, depending on how different classes, like the size of a grade or something at a school changes dramatically. So I appreciate all that, and I won't get into the nitty-gritty of those anomalies that I pointed out, or that I kind of saw as I was looking through it. But the one thing that I was curious about was, so as we're embarking on the pre-K additions and everything, I know over time, like for state-rated capacity and things like that, pre-K counts were never included in the numbers. Do we know if that all kind of starts getting normalized after next year? Like, they're going to have to be, right? Like, has there been?
We have heard talk about that. Once there are full-time pre-Ks in every school, but we don't know at what date that will occur. That change will happen.
Okay. Yeah, it was just interesting because I know that when we look at number of students and then how you allocate things to different buildings and utilization, it's like pre-K was never included in those, but they have to be with how things are moving in the future. So I also noticed that our kindergarten ratios are generally rising, and I know we generally had a target of 16 in the past, and now we're kind of crossing over the 20 threshold, and that's a lot of kids for a kindergarten classroom. And you got to wonder if some of the behavioral stuff that we're seeing is due to these larger class sizes. Like, it's just difficult to provide the level of instruction and guidance with larger kindergarten classes.
About 8-10 years ago, we tried to keep kindergarten classes at 16. Then we moved the ratio to 18, and then to 20, and then to 22. Yeah. So now we're happy when we've got about 22 in a class. Now there are always anomalies out there, and in some places, and this always happens, the day before school starts or the day school starts, one school will be inundated with 5, 6, 7, sometimes 10 students, and they all happen to be in the same grade. It never fails
Always
to
is a
amaze
challenge.
us.
And,
Yes.
and it's a bit of a moving target because obviously we have to commit our resources, typically mid-August, early. Well, it's before that, because we have to make sure that, number one, once we're committing the FTE, that we can get it filled in place in time for the start for all of our work too. So that's the piece. We can't necessarily wait too long before we assign that FTE, but Dr. Farver works very hard over the summer months and closely monitoring where enrollments are going up and down, and we do our best, but like Dr. McCabe said, you never know when sometimes at the last minute a family or a couple of families just happen to enroll that we couldn't quite predict as well, which makes a challenge as well also.
We had that happen several years ago, and it was at Elmer Wolf, and we had over 20 new students show up at that school, and we were scrambling, but you all got the job done.
That's why we always say to families, register early.
Yeah.
As early as
Early
you
and
can.
often.
Love early registration.
Right. Somehow. Yeah, I guess I was wondering if this report can be helpful in some of the discussions from a blueprint perspective as well, because we really track, the number of classes over 30 and then the number of classes over 35, right? Like we kind of added that piece a couple of years ago just to, because those numbers of classes over 30 were kind of creeping up, and we're like, okay, well, how many are over 35, right? Because that really feels like we're pushing the envelope too far at that point. But I'm curious if we can maybe use this kind of format to kind of project the kind of discussions that we're having through Blueprint, saying class sizes are going to increase. So instead of having, an average number of maybe 40 classes over the size of 30 in our high schools or our middle schools, suddenly that number is going to jump to,
Could be.
over 100, right? Like that's maybe a way to kind of prove our points on certain things, to get the community to continue to be engaged. And maybe have an impact at the state level as well on the discussions.
It's also indicative, especially at the high school level, is indicative of our students' participation in dual enrollment. That's the other piece as well too, and which is why I arrived at the 3 FTE for this year that I shifted from the high school level to the elementary level. Turns out we had even more participation so far this year than anticipated in dual enrollment, which is a wonderful thing. But as our students are dual enrolling, either at the community college or participating in courses inside of our buildings, that might give us some flexibility with FTE there. It's a delicate balance because we want to make sure that we can still have the variety of course offerings that we've been able to do. That will continue or build to be more and more of a challenge over the years of future blueprint implementation. But it does speak to the participation in dual enrollment increasing as well.
Right. Well, we calculate these numbers every year. Like, okay, what is our average size student class? It's 23 at elementary, 26 at middle school, and 23 at high school, right? Like that. It's a number, but there's so much that goes into that people don't necessarily understand, right? Like, so that's the average, but there's a lot of classes that are a lot bigger than that, and a lot of classes that are a lot smaller than that in order to try to meet student needs, right? Like the higher level classes, you have a lot more kids in them, and the more developing level classes are smaller. But I think one of the things, so this average number, though, overall, is going to go up dramatically as an impact of the blueprint. And what that means is that the developing classes are all going to get bigger, and that the higher academic classes are going to get to a breaking point. Like, there's only so many you can put in a classroom before it breaks it, right? And I think those are not so those extremes, I think, can help tell our story. Right, of, they say, oh, well, you can deal with, class size going up on average by, 3 or 4 students. Well, yeah, but it's, the extremes are going to get even more extreme, and just create an awareness through this tool.
I think the barometer for me is going to be the number of class sizes over 30, especially as we are forced, hopefully we won't be, but if we're forced to move educators around the system because of the 75% compensatory ed requirement. I'm hopeful and praying that the state legislature gives us some flexibility on that, because I don't want to see teachers moved, and I don't want to see class sizes explode in the south and the southeast part of our county. Mm-hmm. But for me, the barometer is going to be the number of class sizes over 30, because I'm fearful that we're going to see that number jump substantially in those areas where we're forced to move teachers out.
Right. So Marcia and I won't be here, but would it be helpful for you guys to see this kind of as a projection, right? Like, if we take this action, then what will the number of classes with class size greater than 30 jump to, right? I think that could be a good barometer to help you understand the magnitude of the problem.
Yes, and I'm just wondering, with the class size, does it also factor in, the different regroupings, let's say, like at the elementary level, the different regroupings that you might have during the course of the day? So this is homeroom. Just for homeroom.
These are the academic courses, homerooms.
Just homerooms, okay.
And then Mr. Neal had pointed out too, that obviously this is there's a direct connection to this with our fiscal compliance work. Most definitely, we will integrate this and are integrating this into our work. So as we look at potentially a shifting or moving a resource, we'll know real hand as to what that means, in staffing in one place compared to another, based upon the changes in FTE. Especially, it's very clear cut at the elementary and middle level. It's doable at the high school level as well too. But given our course variability, definitely something we can extrapolate from it and connect to the fiscal compliance work.
Okay. Thank you. All right, now we'll move on to our action items. I need a motion for the approval of the school calendar for 2025,
So moved.
2026.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. So moved by Ms. Savigny, seconded by Ms. Battaglia.
In September, I submitted a proposed school calendar for 2025, 2026. The calendar proposed for 25-26 includes The first day of school beginning after Labor Day on September 2nd, so it's an early Labor Day. 4 emergency closing days are built into the calendar. Winter break is proposed to begin on Wednesday, December 24th, 2025, with students returning on Monday, January 5th. Spring break is proposed to be Thursday, April 2nd through Tuesday, April 7th. And the last day of school for students is proposed to be Friday, June 12th. After the September board meeting, the proposed calendar was released for public comment. You have been provided with a summary of the comments received, and tonight the calendar now returns for your action. I'll note that many of the I would say there was no
Significant
no
standout.
Yeah, no significant standout in the comments. They were kind of all over the place. But I think most people would like as many days off as possible and have the school year end as early as possible.
That's right.
Which mathematically doesn't work.
Right. And I think you have sort of the optimal solution
right.
here, so given those constraints.
Yeah.
All right, any comments or questions? Raise your cards.
Well,
Okay, Dr. Dorsey.
let me get my card. I want to
Okay,
be
got it,
obedient.
got it.
Okay, I was going to say, just not that many respondents at all, only 26.
Nope, not at all. All right, I call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Now I need a motion for the approval of the schematic design for the Elmer Wolf Elementary pre-kindergarten edition.
So moved.
By Dr. Dorsey, seconded by Ms. Battaglia.
This and the next 5 items are all related. 6 of the pre-K additions included in the Phase 1 project of the CIP are now progressing to the next stage of formal design, the schematic design level, following your approval of the educational specifications. This is one of the benchmark steps in the design process at which we bring documents for board approval. With each step in design we also provide an updated budget estimate based on project development and the work of the estimator. We will need a separate motion and vote on each project through 6G. Mr. Kane, our facilities planner, is available for any questions or discussions on any of the projects.
Any questions on the Elmer Wolf Elementary pre-kindergarten edition?
I have a couple.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay.
You got your card.
Hey, Mr. Kane, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
We can all
So,
sit back and relax. This is going to be an hour or two.
okay, so I have my little spreadsheet
She's
on
got,
paper
she's
here
got it.
that
I'm telling you, the girl's got it.
So,
Just relax.
for Elmer Wolf, so I have a couple of questions that are generally related for the different sections, but I think these are well laid out, very easy to follow. For Elmer Wolf, the budget was originally $2.3 million, and the estimate is $1.7 million. That's a pretty big difference, and is it related to the one extra pre-K room?
Correct. The budget was based on more square footage to try and get the additional room if it could be afforded. But base bid wise, we're going to stick to the one pre-K because if you go back and remember the original, the pre-K project, the pre-K addition project that the county put in the plan last year was to add one pre-K classroom at each school. During the process of the scope study and meeting with the staff and looking at current numbers at the school, current number of classes, we realized the school probably could use 2. It is a school that never received a full-day kindergarten edition. The reason it didn't was because the school was built with 4 early childhood classrooms because it was built with 2 kindergarten classrooms and 2 pre-K classrooms. They, at the time, for several years, they didn't use the 2 pre-K classrooms for pre-K, especially when we moved to full-day kindergarten. They were using 3 of them for kindergarten, 1 for a pre-K, and most of the time they didn't need a 4th kindergarten, so the school was kind of going along fine. Recently, and now with the expansion of pre-K at Elmer Wolf, they really need a second one, but to keep with the spirit of the original project, base bid would be one pre-K classroom. We'll get prices for a second one to see if we can afford it, but it's an alternate right now. But when the budgeting was done, we did add some additional square footage to try and account for the possibility of getting the second classroom, which, if you recall, Elmer Wolf currently has 2 portable classrooms on site. Part of the reason they have that is because of the lack of early childhood classrooms.
Okay. So is it reasonable to assume then that, so the difference, the estimate was the 1.7 million and the budget was 2.3, so the adult would be we would expect it to come in at about 600,000, is that?
At this point, I don't have the numbers from the cost estimator. At this point, it's real conceptual, probably in that range, maybe slightly higher, slightly lower, but kind of within that range. I would anticipate it would be around there. These conceptual, just like the projects that we're currently getting ready to bid, the estimates we do at each phase, the very early on conceptual schematic estimates are really a rough cost per square foot, and with percentages kind of thrown onto it. Right now, yeah, I would anticipate it would be in that range, but as we go through the design and get closer, that's when we'll really kind of get a better idea.
Okay. And if we did actually get a reasonable cost estimate for the ad alternate and the future board decides to go down that direction, would that alleviate the need for a portable at Elmer Wolf?
That would have to be, you just saw the staffing report. Staffing does change year to year. That would have to be, especially with Blueprint, that would be a decision at the time.
Okay.
Because that's an annual decision. At this point, if it were to open today, I believe that if we built 2 classrooms, it would replace the need for the portable from a homeroom perspective, but it's also a school that has a lot of additional supports because it's a comp ed school. My guess is the principal has found creative ways to put people in spaces, so they probably would advocate that we need the portable. So,
okay.
But so it's hard to say 2 years from now whether they would need it or not need it. So.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, yeah, I appreciate the approach of including it as an adult so that you guys can make that decision in the future of what makes the most sense. I will say that, so one of the comments on here is that the combination of all 6 of these projects is within 1% of the current budget. That is with a $600,000 decrease, though, at Elmer Wolf, right? Because 2 of the other projects are $300,000 over, right? So kind of keep that in mind as we're trying to stay within budget, right? I mean, I would think that when you look at the adult in the future, one of the questions I would want to know is if it eliminates the need for the portable, right? Like, I think that would be a reasonable ask, right? But if the portable is still going to be there for, like, it's been our goal to try to get rid of as many of those as we can, right? But just keep that in consideration. So.
Yeah, the concern I have is we've been seeing 2 to 3% inflation every year. So my concern going forward is the inflationary costs that we might experience going down the road.
The cost estimates, the cost estimating company, I would say, typically at this stage of design is going to be conservatively high because they're concerned about those same things. So the closer we get to the bid day and bid documents being done, they generally hone their estimate a little bit. But yeah, definitely through the process, we keep an eye on it. We try to, from this schematic design, we go into design development where we really try to refine the design, and we're always looking at, making sure costs are considered, and if there's areas we can tighten up the design to reduce square footage, make additional alternates on material selection, we certainly do that to try and give us that flexibility at the bid table.
Okay.
I'm good on that.
All right, I call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Now I need a motion for the approval of the schematic design for the Robert Moton Elementary pre-kindergarten edition.
So moved.
By Ms. Pataglia, seconded by by Mr. Whistler. Thank you. Same thing. Ms. Savigny? Mr. Carter, if you have something to say.
So I just have a quick one on this one. So the add alternate for this one is the oversized workroom. What are the benefits of that?
So the base bid would be a storage room with the pre-K, the new pre-K classroom. The alternate would increase it to make a larger kindergarten/pre-K workroom, which then potentially could replace the existing kindergarten workroom, which is currently adjacent to the BEST suite, the BEST program suite, which, if you recall, in the facility master plan, we've had a BEST program addition for additional space. In the past, when it was originally put into the master plan, it was they felt like they needed a couple additional classrooms because of the growth in number of students. You know, within the last year, I would say it's more of a reconfiguration to better accommodate the needs of the students today, because when the building was designed in the 70s, there was a suite in the front of the school for special education, but I wouldn't say it was designed for the current needs of the BEST program. So this, if we were able to take this, they could relocate the kindergarten workroom into this newer space, and then that would free up that other room to be able to be kind of taken over by BEST, and they could reconfigure, maybe move some rooms around to better accommodate those student needs and the teacher needs.
Okay, gotcha. And so the estimate for that does not include the add alternate, right?
Correct. The estimate is just the base bid is what's in the schematic document.
Okay.
Anything else? All right, I call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Now I need a motion for the approval of the schematic design for the Runnymede Elementary Pre-Kindergarten Edition by Dr. Dorsey and then seconded by Ms. Pataglia. Cards, Donna?
go.
Yes, go ahead, yes, by all means.
So two quick questions on this one. I noticed that this is the only project that would require, well, it says likely that a firewall will be required for this project.
Yeah.
And that was the only one of the six that required that.
Correct. And it has to do with when the kindergarten edition was done back in 2007, they didn't do a firewall, and we'd be adding on to, in the back of the school, we'd be adding on to that, which would push it over a code requirement for, now it barely pushes us over, and our intention is to meet with the code officials to try and, you know, get some leeway as far as, do you really want a firewall for just one classroom when the rest of the school's on the other side? So we're going to have discussions with the code officials, and our hope is maybe we can get a waiver or some kind of leeway. The intent of the code is not to divide small pieces of a building like that. It's more, you know, supposed to divide larger areas, but
Okay.
technically, that the architect's saying, technically we have to put one in for one classroom because it just pushed us over that limit.
Gotcha. Okay. And that, extra expense would be included in the estimate?
That is because it's included in the narrative, so the cost estimator would have picked that up.
Okay. Okay,
Yes.
gotcha. And the one other question that I had on this one was that the square footage for this room, and in all the other projects, the square footage for the pre-K rooms is around 1,000 square feet, but for this one, it's 780. Is there a reason why that would be acceptable, like the smaller room would be acceptable for this project, but not for the others?
So the pre-K classroom is actually going to be, let me make sure I'm looking at the correct page. The pre-K classroom should be it's 1,000.
It is 1,000? Okay.
What's happening in this school is there's an existing first grade classroom which is closer to 750 to 800. Next to the kindergarten wing, you know, that was left at when they did the kindergarten addition in 2007, that one standalone first grade classroom in the middle of the kindergarten and pre-K rooms. Instead of tacking on to the building and leaving that first grade kind of in the middle of the early childhood classrooms, we've decided to expand that classroom out. So we're going to reuse part of that classroom, and then we're going to add new space to it to get it from 750, 800 up to 1,000 square feet classroom with an additional bathroom and storage area. And then we're going to build a second addition in the back where the rest of the first grade classrooms are. So we're building, in this one, we're building 2 additions.
Okay.
We're basically renovating and adding on to a first grade classroom to make it a little bigger and make it a kindergarten classroom adjacent to the other kindergarten classrooms, and then we build a second addition to replace that first grade classroom.
Okay.
The first grade classroom would be closer to 750, 800.
Okay, that makes sense. All right.
All right, I call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Now I need a motion for the approval of the schematic design for the Spring Garden Elementary Pre-Kindergarten Edition.
So moved.
By Ms. Pataglia, seconded by Mr. Whistler. Thank you. Ms. Savigny.
So we're on Spring Garden, right?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay.
Yep, we're getting there.
So on page 20, I was looking at the budget versus the estimate. So it looks like the square footage, like through working on this one, the overall square footage ended up being a little bit lower than the ed specs in the schematic design, but the budget ended up being, the estimate ended up being a lot higher than the budget. So just trying to understand the dynamics there.
Yeah, so it has to do with smaller addition, the higher the cost per square foot, because you lose efficiency. So construction costs are cost per square foot is spread over square footage. It's a math formula. So if there's a built-in cost of, say, $1 million, and you're coming to build 1,000 square foot addition, that's going to count one cost per square foot versus $1 million base cost to come. Now I'm building 2,000 square feet. Well, that's going to dramatically reduce the cost per square foot. When they're budgeting and when I'm budgeting and when these cost estimators are doing the cost estimate, they're using cost per square foot numbers. Since this is a smaller sized addition, they're using a higher cost per square foot to budget for it or to estimate. They're using a higher one than I use to budget.
Okay.
I was using the same number for all 6. They're using different numbers based on their market data and sizes of additions.
Okay.
They have a little more data, database, because that's what they do. They're a construction cost estimator, so.
Right. Okay.
All right. I call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Now I need a motion for the approval of schematic design for Westminster Elementary Pre-Kindergarten Edition.
So moved.
By Ms. Pataglia, seconded by Dr. Dorsey.
Anybody else?
Yep. Go ahead, Ms. Savigny.
Okay. So I'm looking at the adult for this one for the band classroom, and it says that the current band classroom is too small.
Correct.
Is it? That's your classroom, isn't it? Okay.
Well, so the current band classroom in the building as it was designed. So the school was built with a band classroom. Where band is being taught is not in the band classroom. It's in a portable classroom. The original, if you look at the floor plans, there's an instrumental music classroom on the floor plans. It's the size of a large storage room. It was deemed at some point too small. Like you could probably work with 4 or 5 kids, but 10 kids would be tight.
Okay.
So it was deemed to be too small at some point. They moved the band out of there and haven't really kind of looked back. It's been in a portable at least 15 years or so. So that portable has to move because where the pre-K edition is going to be in its footprint. So there was some discussion about would be nice to move band back into the building as opposed to keeping it in a portable. But So we're going to get a price for it. It looks like we probably have to relocate the portable and put it back in place during the construction of the addition anyway, so.
Oh, my God.
It may not be necessary, like band may have to stay in the portable, because we have to pay for that cost anyway to relocate the portable.
Right.
But like we felt like make it an alternate, we can get a price. The board can make the decision whether they would like to keep band in the portable long-term or look to build an addition while we're there.
Okay.
So this is really just kind of to get the information to let the board make that decision based on, what the budget is and how much the bids are at the time we bid these, so.
Okay, that makes sense, because I did see that, on the schematics, it was like, okay, well, we're going to relocate the portable over to this side, and I'm
Yeah.
like, wait, why are we doing that?
There was
But okay, now that makes sense.
There was discussion about whether maybe if band could move back into the school for that year, but based on their staffing and the fact that they're, again, a comp ed school where they're getting additional staffing as opposed to being reduced, so band is, there wouldn't be a free classroom to move them into at this point, so we said, well, we're gonna have to keep them in the portable during construction, so that means we gotta move the portable anyway. We probably won't be doing the addition, it won't be necessary, but let's make it an alternate and get a price at least, and then, because ideally, we would have band in the school like
Of course.
so it's just, there's a cost to that, so we're
Okay.
gonna, although some folks do like being in, some teachers like being in a portable.
Yeah.
So that moving of the portable, because you're likely still going to need it for the course of the year that the addition is being built.
Right.
That expense is included in the
That's
estimate.
that's in the estimate.
Okay,
yes.
but if we then said, okay, if we decided to go with the adult and we built a new band classroom as part of the addition, then removing the portable after that is not in the cost? Or would that be part of the cost of the adult, where it's like you?
We would probably, the cost of the adult would be to build the addition. The removal of the portable, we would do that separately, because most likely it would be a relocation to another school. We have a relocatable CIP project where we move portables.
Right.
It would probably be done as part of that project.
Okay, gotcha. So it wouldn't be allocated to this project in any
Correct.
way? Okay, all right.
Ms. Battaglia?
I was gonna say, I would rather, while we're there, just get everything done. That way you already have the manpower, you already have the specs have been done for it, and design and everything. If you got it all there, do it there while you can. I guess I'm old school where I like having band class in the school.
Yeah, but, and again, there is limitations on funding, but like while we're getting bids, let's get a bid for it and get an
Yeah.
alternate.
Because it might make sense in the
Right.
long run, because then we're not having to go back.
Right.
And then it could be some, more expensive or whatever later. So I say, let's do it now. And
Yeah. I would say I'd definitely be more inclined to do that adult than the extra pre-K class at Elmer Wolf. Like, I think that one's a no-brainer. Like, while you're there, if it's inadequate, then
Yeah.
fix it while you're in there. So, yeah,
do it there while you're there.
agreed.
Okay, anything else? All right, I call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Now I need a motion for the approval of the schematic design for William Winchester Elementary Pre-Kindergarten Addition. By Mr. Whistler, seconded by Dr. Dorsey. Ms. Savigny, you got your card up?
Yeah, so I guess, well, I'll start with this one first. So the estimate is a lot higher than the budget, but the square footage is lower. Is that the same answer as for Spring Garden?
It is part of it. I believe this one also has a little more site implications as far as we're building on the hard court, and then we have to replace the hard court, which has some stormwater management implications. But it also, being smaller footprint, would have their estimate would be using a higher cost per square foot number.
Okay.
So.
Okay. So that answer plus a little more site work.
Right.
Okay. Okay. Got it. I guess the second question that I had then is a little bit bigger picture, is just that William Winchester is on the modernization schedule in the CIP for 2028.
I believe in the facility master plan and in the CIP, we're asking for feasibility study money, I believe. But again, it's behind Liberty High.
2029.
2020. It's behind Liberty High, which we're asking again for feasibility study funds from the county to do a study on Liberty High. That's the first modernization. We've deferred it a year now. We asked last year. So yes, that's where we plan to do it if funded. It is behind Liberty High at this point. Obviously, future boards can make a decision on prioritization of modernizations, but right now it's Liberty High first, then William Winchester second, which probably means I would say it's possible, but it's optimistic that it's going to happen in FY 28, 29. Never say never, but and it is needed, obviously. That's why we're asking for it, but always matching up need to funding is the struggle. So.
Right. Yeah, I guess I was kind of looking at it from the perspective of like, okay, well, we're doing pre-K additions in 3 phases, right? Does it make sense to put Willie in phase 3 and maybe you marry that up with the full modernization? But will that really save you anything, like this piece of it versus the full modernization?
We would hire an architect first to do a feasibility study. There's 2 ways to do a modernization. You can renovate and add on to a current building and convert pieces, renovate pieces, and maybe add spaces that aren't sufficient. Kind of like Career and Tech, we added on, then we're renovating. That's a modernization. The other way is East Middle, where we build a replacement school. The architect's going to look at both of those in the feasibility study and kind of make a recommendation, or sometimes they leave it up to the board, but one will be more cost-effective, one may be better from an instructional long-term perspective, but those are the decisions. And yes, there are times where you might spend money 5 years ahead of time without knowing that answer, but but the need for at William Winchester, the reason it's in phase 1 is because it has a higher number of families that are eligible for the pre-K. So the thinking is that this is one of the schools where we would have more families eligible for pre-K, so they would need the second pre-K sooner than some of the other schools in the county.
Yeah, I guess it just concerns me that we might spend close to $2 million on an addition, and then 2 years later turn around and say, oh, we need to build a whole new building.
Yeah, I had brought that up at one time as well when we were looking at Willie's addition.
But it sounds like they need it now.
That's one of the 60-40 split in the pre-K requirements are things that we're trying to work through the legislative committee to see if we can get relief from the legislature. I mean, the pre-K requirement, it's very unlikely we're going to find the public-private partnership that, so if they don't relax the requirement, we may see even bigger costs come down the road for this.
Thank you. All right, I call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously.
And Ms. Herbert, so this isn't going to impact the vote, but can I just ask a question in general? So I mean,
Go right ahead.
You were talking about, Steve, you were talking about the interaction with the blueprint. I am concerned about, like we have to spend all of this money to do the pre-K additions because of the blueprint, but the state funding doesn't really appear to be there. I know that this is, subject of conversation, but, all across the state, but I struggle with, like committing the dollars, before the state puts up their fair share for all of this.
Right.
It's something that's really worrying a lot of people, especially when, the article came out, I think it was earlier today or yesterday, there's a $2.7 billion budget deficit facing the state legislature this year. So, from a capital money perspective, I'm just wondering where they're going to get it from. So hopefully the legislature will come through with some sort of relief of the blueprint requirements, and if so, we can maybe throttle back on some of this later, but time will tell. We'll see what this legislative session
Right.
bears out.
Yeah, it's going to have to be a game day decision, I
prayer.
guess, as things evolve, but.
Ms. Pataglia.
Board members, would it make sense to maybe go ahead and do a feasibility study on William Winchester? That way, we can go ahead and get a jump start on that. That way, we get an idea of, okay, so would it make sense to do the pre-K and kindergarten additions, or does the feasibility study say we should do X, Y, and Z, and that way we have a bigger picture at? Because I agree with that. Like, I don't want to spend $2 million on an addition, and then feasibility will come back in 5 years and say, oh, by the way, now you're gonna need to build a whole new school. Like, I don't want us to. I just don't want the waste, you know.
Yeah, we
So
can't, this is not on the agenda, so you'll have to bring that up.
So the schematic design doesn't commit the 2 million that you're speaking of would be,
No.
is a future CIP request, so there's time to have that conversation, I think, as a board.
Yeah, if you want to have that conversation, you'll
Yeah.
have to bring it up. Yeah, so we'll move on here. I need a motion for the approval of irrevocable consent to annexation for the Cranberry Station Elementary property. By Dr. Dorsey, seconded by Steve.
This approval is required as part of the City of Westminster's regulations for water allocations. It is the same action as the board has previously approved for other school facilities within the City of Westminster. Questions?
Comments, questions, cards up? Ms. Savigny?
I did have a quick question, but Mr. O'Mealy's out of the room.
Okay.
I was just wondering what the annexation, Mr.
There he
O'Mealy's
is.
back, okay.
That's okay.
I just had a quick question for you on the irrevocable consent to annexation. Yes. What do the annexation rights mean? Like, what does it give the city the right to do? Do they have the rights to do anything to the property?
Well, what this does is it gives the city the right to bring this within the corporate limits of the City of Westminster. And that's the condition for the extending of the water and all that.
Water.
But the irrevocable right doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be exercised immediately. They're going to have that right to exercise the annexation option at the time that they choose to do so.
Okay.
Okay, but they don't have the right to do anything else to the property, right? Like,
No.
it just brings it into the city limits,
It's
okay.
not an easement.
Okay.
It's the right to bring it within the corporate limits of the city.
Okay.
At some point in the future.
To add to what Mr. Millie said, it also doesn't mean that they'll ever exercise the right to annex. City council may well say, we choose not to annex, but we're just following their procedure in their water policy.
Okay, so it's just something that legally has to be done, but it doesn't really impact the school system in any way, really?
Correct.
Well, it doesn't directly impact the school system any more than any other school within the corporate limits of one of our incorporated municipalities.
Okay.
All right.
That's the condition for the extension of the water.
Okay.
Okay, I call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Now I need a motion for the approval of the construction documents for the Cranberry Station Elementary Kindergarten, Pre-Kindergarten Addition Project.
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Pataglia, seconded by
I'll second.
Ms. Savigny.
The next 4 items are related. Each is the approval of construction documents for the respective project. The construction document is the final formal stage in the construction design process. After board approval, the construction document will be used to create the bid documents for each project. We will need the board to make a motion and vote on the projects individually, just like the past one you just did. Mr. Marks is available for any questions or discussion.
Any comments on Cranberry Station? I call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Now I need a motion for the approval of the construction documents for the Friendship Valley Elementary Kindergarten, Pre-Kindergarten Pride Additional Project. By Dr. Dorsey, seconded by?
I'll second.
By Ms. Battaglia. Comments? Questions? We've already been through all this?
I did have a quick question.
Okay.
So for Friendship Valley, the Pride program is in the portables, and we're bringing the Pride program in. And are we planning to deconstruct the portables after that? And is that included in the price of this project, or in the estimate for this project?
They don't have the removal of it that I know of in the estimate from what I've seen of it. It's not a large deal getting rid of. This portable has had a lot of use over many places and locations. So more than likely, this portable would meet a dumpster for its last
Right.
round.
Okay.
And that wouldn't be that expensive. So in the cost of, wow, as we see this whole project, it's a very minor cost, even if we had to absorb it.
Okay.
But then again, if somebody wanted to revive it and put it somewhere else, I could find a way to do it. But like Mr. Kane had said, we could handle that under the portable budget. If we
Under the
had to.
portable budget, okay.
Right.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if that would kind of fall under the same project. Okay, all right.
Okay.
Rather than putting a portable in the dumpster, have we ever thought about or given the possibility of maybe donating it to, I don't know, like maybe a Westminster Rescue
Yes.
Mission or some other?
We do. We reach out to lots of people when we have one that we can donate. Sometimes a church will reach out to us beforehand, and we'll put them on a list. Or
Yeah, I'd
we've
rather
done that.
see it be used for that if
Yes.
possible, but thank you, sir.
No problem. They're very expensive to move. That's the one thing we have to warn them about.
That's the
Ours are
whole
very big
thing.
and very expensive.
All right, I call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Now, you two sitting up here in the front, I think we've scared you to death. I've been watching your faces, and they're like, what am I getting into? Just enjoy the ride. All right, yeah, blueprint. Okay, now I've just been watching them, and I'm like, oh. Now I need a motion for the approval of the construction documents for the Sandy Mount Elementary Kindergarten, Pre-Kindergarten Addition Project.
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Battaglia, second by Ms. Savigny. Comments, questions? I call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Now I need a motion for the approval of the construction documents for the Tawnytown Elementary Kindergarten, Pre-Kindergarten Addition Project.
So moved.
By Dr. Dorsey, seconded by?
Second.
By Ms. Battaglia. Okay, Ms. Savigny.
Just one quick question. Mr. Marks, can you remind me why we're going with 2 pre-K for this?
Well, one reason is we're blowing through the old Judy Center to make this addition.
That's it.
what it was.
And Mr. King could probably
There
help
you
me
go.
with more detail on that, but that was the biggest reason, or?
Yeah, the Judy Center's in the.
Yes. It's in the pre-K now.
Okay.
That was designed and built. They turned that into the Judy Center.
Okay, gotcha.
And we have to go build the expansion through that, so we're replacing it.
Okay, thank you. I knew there was a reason, I just couldn't remember it.
It's
Okay.
fine. They're complicated.
I call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Now I need a motion for the approval of change order for the East Middle School project.
So moved.
By Dr. Dorsey, seconded by?
I'll second.
By Mr. Whistler.
You will recall the time period in the construction of East Middle where the vein of rock was discovered under the site, requiring mitigation. At that time, the board approved capital budget actions to refine the project budget to cover the anticipated cost increases due to removal of the rock. This change order, which requires board approval by policy, is the final action related to that work. The good news is that the change order, and therefore the total cost, comes in under the budget that the board established.
Woohoo.
Yeah.
All right.
It was.
All right. Seeing no cards, I call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Now I need a motion for the approval of the Title IX coordination contract. By Ms. Battaglia, seconded by Mr. Whistler.
This item is for the approval of a professional services contract to provide services assisting our staff with Title IX coordination.
Ms. Savigny.
Mr. O'Neill, you had already answered this question for me earlier, but I just want to ask it in public so people hear the answer. So the $75,000 contract, it's an hourly rate that would be paid for a maximum of up to $75,000. Is that right?
Correct. So it's it's a maximum of 75 in this fiscal year, but we would only pay for services actually rendered on an invoice basis.
Right.
All right, I call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Now I need a motion for the approval of personnel actions. By Ms. Pataglia, seconded by Mr. Whistler.
For the monthly personnel action items, there are 4 new hires, 1 dismissal, 1 release from contract, and 1 broken contract.
Seeing no cards, I call for the vote.
I'm sorry. Could I ask one quick question? Under the new hire number 3, it's listed under the marks at tier 11. I just want to make sure that that's a typo, that should be tier 1. There is no tier 11, is there?
Good question.
Okay. Thank you, John.
Okay.
All right, I call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Now I need a motion for the approval of appointments. By Dr. Dorsey, seconded by Ms. Pataglia.
All right, I have 4 recommendations for appointment this evening. The first is Lisa Miles, from Coordinator of Health Services in Student Services to Acting Supervisor of Health Services, Student Services. Next, Aaron Sikorsky, from Assistant Principal at Carrolltown Elementary to Acting Principal, Carrolltown Elementary. Next, Christina Stacy, from School Counselor at Carrolltown Elementary to Acting Assistant Principal at Carrolltown Elementary. And lastly, Brian Stojak, from Music Teacher at Friendship Valley Elementary to Acting Assistant Principal at Friendship Valley Elementary.
Seeing no cards, I call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Now I need a motion for the approval of award of bids.
So moved.
By Ms. Pataglia, seconded by Mr. Whistler.
There are 6 items on the award of bids this evening. The first is architectural and engineering services for the roof replacement at Oklahoma Road Middle School. This award is for the A&E services for the roof replacement at ORMS as part of the CIP. Next, we have a new chiller for Northwest Middle School. This award is for the permanent replacement of the chiller at Northwest Middle, which we have been supporting since the opening of the school year. It is funded by the local CIP Infrastructure Renewal Project account. Next, we have the rebuild refurbished chillers for Century High School and Winters Mill High School. This contract is for the refurbishment of chillers at each of these schools, which are nearing the end of their life cycle. Next, we have the rebuild refurbishment of the chiller at South Carroll High School, and this one is for refurbishing the chiller at that school. Next, we have the brick facade at Westminster High School. This contract is for construction management services for additional brick refurbishment and repairs on the facade of Westminster High School, which should begin in the next year. And finally, for machine technology machinery for the Career and Tech Center, as part of the fitting out of the modernized Career and Tech Center building, this award is for 3 vertical milling machines, and this award is made through grant funding.
I'm going to call up Mr. Riddle and ask him if he can make us some more green money, because it looks like we're certainly going to need it. Holy moly. Miss Savigny, woo!
Yeah, I mean, I echo Mr. Whistler's comments that the chillers the last couple of months has just, they've just been racking up the funds. Is this, so for these 3 projects that are on here this month, would those be coming out of the replenished maintenance funds that we just, okay.
Infrastructure renewal.
Okay. Do we expect, so I know when we do an HVAC replacement, it's many millions of dollars at each one of the schools at this point, and they're expected to last 20-plus years. Do we expect a lot of this ongoing chiller replacement at certain points in the life cycle?
Depending on the performance of each system, yes. So Northwest is a 2-year problem at the start of the last 2 school years. This is actually a permanent fix. Mr. Prokop and his supervisor of plant maintenance, who you usually don't get to meet here, Mr. Joe Morningstar, but I can make Joe be here if you want to. When we asked Mr. Morningstar to find a permanent solution so that we don't relive that, he was actually able to find available a replacement chiller. And so in that case, it's almost like making Northwest new in that sense, and hopefully never dealing with that again. The next 2, which are 3 schools in those combined bids, is our attempt at preventative maintenance to try to avoid another Northwest scenario. So they're end of life. It's in a way similar to the conversation you were just having about William Winchester. We have to make estimates on realistically what do we think we can do in the capital program versus what do we need to do to prevent another Northwest kind of scenario. And we believe this is the best solution there to have those buildings be sound into the viable future. And nothing, we had a similar situation in Northwest at Orms 2 school years ago at the start. We haven't had problems at that level, but we've had problems with these chillers. And if any of you were at, I think, NTO, New Teacher Orientation was at Winters Mill a couple years ago, and it was, some people are agreeing, it was very humid. That's a reflection of this problem. So we're trying to refurbish and then move forward knowing that it's unlikely we're going to have HVAC renovations in the plan soon enough.
Okay.
It's a calculated choice of
right.
Yeah, and as you pointed out, you're funding this yourself.
Right.
Through your allocation of various surpluses from time to time into that local infrastructure renewal project.
And remind me how much we put into that this year?
I think we moved $3 million in.
$3 million
in this year. Yes, Mr. Prokop is saying yes.
$3 million. Okay, so the chillers are going to eat a pretty significant chunk of that, but we still think it's the best cost-benefit analysis on how to spend those dollars.
That's a way to look at it. There was also money in there still. This was to replenish, and Ray may have programmed these into the year. So the $3 million was sort of, I guess a way to say it is projects like this is why we asked for the next $3 million, if that makes sense.
Okay. And then I guess just on number 5, the sole source procurement, the only thing that we're approving is the $35,000, right, for Gardner Engineering.
A couple of months ago, maybe, you approved the ordering of the bricks on an award of bids. This is just the management of it, and then we hope to be able to begin the replacement or the fixing in January or early in the calendar year, weather permitting. So what's happening there is we now that we're aware of it, we keep inspecting. And when the inspections reveal, hey, you should probably go ahead and replace this section or repair this section, then that's what we're bringing now is kind of a new section.
And this is going to continue, right?
Well, hopefully Mrs. Herbert will reach a break-even point where we've replaced everything that needs to be
Every
replaced.
brick that needs to be done.
Hopefully not every brick, but what needs to be done, yes.
All right, now, are these in areas where people are walking in and out, or do we have these roped off, or I mean, I was just wondering because I knew it was near an entrance one time, and
Bring Mr. Prokop here.
There he is.
Specificity.
He might as well come on up.
We're fine.
I almost got to the end without having to come up. So the first phase had a lot more to do with the entrances.
Right, and that's
These-
where you had them marked off, lined off,
Right.
caution.
There was a lot of protection that had to be put in place. These areas are away from those entrances
Okay.
and walkways. So we don't have as much.
We don't have to worry about that.
But we will be making sure that that the areas are safe during construction.
It's going to be a lot of money.
The way we inspect is we have Ray just walk around the perimeter of the building without a
And
hard
see
hat on.
what's falling down on the ground. Okay. Seeing no other cards, I call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Now I need a motion for the approval of the FY25 CIP budget transfer. By Mr. Whistler, seconded by Ms. Battaglia.
And lastly, I have 2 CIP budget actions for your approval. Once you approve these actions, they will then need to go to the commissioners for their approval. The first is for a CIP budget transfer to move state funding from the Westminster High School window project to the Spring Garden Elementary School HVAC project. This action has been approved by the state. At the time of the award of bid for the project, we shared that the state had approved this action in order to maximize state participation in the project. This budget transfer is still required to complete the transaction.
Okay, seeing no cards, I call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Now I need a motion for the approval of the FY25 budget adjustment. By Ms. Battaglia, seconded by
I'll second.
Ms. Savigny.
This CIP budget adjustment recognizes grant funding from the Maryland Center for School Safety, which was approved by the center in October. These funds are used to make improvements to our school security infrastructure in projects vetted through the board's Security Advisory Council.
All right, seeing no cards, I will call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Moving on now to new things. We do have the country breakfast coming up December 14th at the Career and Tech. Don't forget that. You can get a picture with Santa Claus and all that good stuff. Get good food. And then on Monday, December 9th, we have at 1 p.m. we have the new board member swearing in ceremony right in this room. At 5 p.m. Wednesday, December 11th, we'll have the board meeting with public participation in the boardroom at 125 North Court Street. And at 3 p.m. on Wednesday, December 18th, 2024, you'll have your first FY26 budget workshop in the boardroom here. Please make sure you all get your shingles shot. And I'm telling you that because I still go to the acupuncturist because my ear burns for 4 years. So I cannot thank you all enough. It's been a wonderful time. And have a good night. I was going to say, I'll usually do that. Okay, I need a motion to adjourn. Dr. Dorsey, seconded by Ms. Savigny.
I will second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. And thank you all so much for your hard work back there.